So welcome everyone. Welcome to our Board of Trustees meeting tonight. This is our public session agenda. It is May 13th, 2021, and the time is 6:01 p.m. We'd like to call this meeting to order. And per usual, we would like to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, so please feel free to join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, regarding public comment.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Can I make a statement? There was an incident that happened in the village yesterday, and I'd just like to make a statement to the public.
Trustee
denouncing it.
Parrish, we,
It's a
as you know,
public
we have,
safety thing. I think all the board would appreciate it. It's just about an incident that happened. I just think that's important for the board to sit there and, denounce what happened. So it will be 30 seconds.
okay, it's okay. Just in the future, we've worked very hard to kind of have set agendas and no walk-ons. So, but we're open to this, and we really appreciate you bringing this up. And thank you.
No, I just want to it's be very quick. Thank you. So anyway, yesterday to the public, there was an incident in the village where one of our residents had an incident at their home. Their sign that was in front of their yard was vandalized, and also more importantly, which was disturbing, that a flower planter on their front porch was set afire. These people have young kids, and it's a very scary situation. And I want, more importantly, to denounce this type of behavior. This is not the type of village that, we are. And it's very concerning that, something like this would happen. And it could have been a catastrophe. Thank God nothing happened, and everybody was safe. But things like this, I just wanted to speak out as a trustee, and it's our job to protect the people. So I really wanted to find this important to do this. Again, if it comes to signs that this is happening, I'm going to throw it out there. Do we even bother putting up signs for the election? Is this the type of thing that's going to happen? I believe we're a better village than this, and I just really wanted to bring it up, and I hope the rest of the board will, support this and denouncing it also. So, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to make a comment, any of the board members, I'd appreciate it, but I wanted to get that out there.
Thank you very much. We can get going with our meeting. You're right. As you said, thank goodness nothing happened, and thank you so much for bringing that up. We really appreciate it. That sounds like a very unacceptable behavior, and we're very happy that you and people are safe, and obviously public safety is our top priority. And thank you very much, Trustee Parrish, for bringing it up. I agree with you. That type of behavior is completely unacceptable. And again, thank you so much for your time and bringing that up and making this a priority in our board meeting. So thank you very much for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll now begin with the public comment, and this meeting is being live streamed. A transcript will be provided at a later date. So the public will have an opportunity to see and hear the meeting live and provide comments. So to view the meeting, you can be on YouTube. To submit comments for the public record, just so we know in advance, you can send comments to mweber@southamptonvillage.org up to 5:45 p.m., as well as to Charlene, who is our village administrator. And then to join our board meetings via Zoom, if we do have some in the future, you can also email mweber@southamptonvillage.org, or for any additional comments or questions you might have, we're available to the public. Now, we would like to open this up to public comments. So if there's anyone who would like to make public comment, feel free to raise your hand and you can come in. If not, we can move forward with the board presentation.
I'm watching. I don't see any yet. No hands, Mayor.
Okay, excellent. So let's move forward with our Employee of the Month. This is a very great occasion because we'd like to recognize Victor Crump from our Building Maintenance Department, and his position is custodian as our Employee of the Month for May 2021. Victor is actually one of our newly hired employees. This board, actually 3 members of our board were responsible for hiring him, and he has done an excellent job. And I also wanted to compliment Johnny, who was the individual nominating him. It was not a department head, but this is how it should be, where we have fellow colleagues working together and offering up the nomination. So we'd like to read a few things. Excellent work that Victor has done. First, he's helping get the Cooper Beach concession stand ready to go, including the restrooms. and we're very excited for the Cooper's Beach opening. So thank you, Victor, for that. Amazing and great work attitude. When I see, and we all see Victor around, he's got an extremely professional and positive attitude, and we really appreciate that. He works extremely well with others, and he's always ready to get the job done. And he reflects the village in a great light, which is exactly what we're looking for in all of our employees and all of our public officials. So I wanted to thank Victor Crump for his hard work and dedication, and also recognize him as our Employee of the Month. Okay, next. We have a board presentation, which we're very excited about. This is for Drawdown East End regarding carbon reduction. And we have one of our favorite people, Dorothy or Dar Riley, and we've also have Sheila Pfeiffer joining her as well. And we may have Mike Lieberman, who's working with Drawdown, who's also on our planning commission. So Dar, you can take it away.
They're coming in, Mayor.
Is there a way for my,
I'm
Okay.
going to send you a link to start your camera and to unmute while you're unmuted. So
okay,
there's two. Lieberman. Good.
Hello.
great. Thank you so much for having us on this. And first of all, I want to start by honoring all of you and for all of the great work you do. Also, Mayor Jesse and board members have honored us this week. Sheila and I were able to speak with each of them. Thank you so much for listening to our concerns and for sharing your thoughts about this. My name is Dorothy Wright Riley. I was born and raised here, not down the street, not far from where you all are sitting right now. And I am the co-founder and co-chair of Drawdown East End. I'd also like to introduce Sheila, who is a village resident, Sheila Pfeiffer. She's the former director of religious education at the Sacred Hearts Church. She's also the former president of the international group Women's Coordination Conference Board. She's active in climate and social justice. Her kids all graduated from Southampton High School, and she's a co-chair also of the Carbon Crew Project with me and active in Drawdown East End. Mike Lieberman, many of you know, he's a village resident. He's the environmental planner for the town of Southampton. He also serves on the Village Planning Commission. I also know him as a surfer, and he's also a graduate of Southampton. So I discovered the work by Paul Hawken, Project Drawdown, about 3 years ago. And what's interesting about what he did is he said, hey, we've got this enormous problem, but we don't know exactly how to tackle it. So he brought together about 240 researchers to study this situation. What can we do about carbon in our atmosphere, greenhouse gases, and worked on two different fronts. One is what's available right now today and came up with 80 different solutions, and also looked at some things that are in the offing now. We're going to focus on the ones that are here today. They also looked at how to stop emissions from going up into the atmosphere. We think of fossil fuels, and also how do we sequester carbon down into the earth, down into the oceans, down into our soils through regenerative agriculture practices and landscape practices. I was so excited when I learned about this. I had to start teach about it, which I did at the Rogers Memorial Library, and then create this group, Drawdown East End. Another thing about their attitude that really struck me, Paul Hawken's attitude in particular, is that this is what we do in community, in collaboration, and with creativity. And that's what we'd like to bring to you here today. So Drawdown has 80 actionable solutions, some of which are applicable to you all, some to households and some to businesses. They prioritize them, which is vital for us knowing how to attack these things. And when they crunched all the numbers, they surprised themselves in discovering that we can reverse global warming. Now, it does take us all of us to be working on this, and the time for doing that is now, which is a wonderful time for us to be able to talk to you about this. Last year, I want to remind you that Drawdown East End put together something at SAC, Southampton Arts Center, which we called Drawdown Festival Films, Forums, Fun. And this was before COVID. So this was before all these people had moved out to the village. But in January of last year, the end of January, we had 650 people in one day to attend a program specifically about climate change and global warming. Another 100 came later that week. There was such a call for more opportunities for people to see what we'd shown. We had a number of people, 100 extra people. So we had 750 people in 1 week in January come to learn about this and express their concern, and also their delight in knowing that we can do things about this. And so keep your ears open, because we're going to redo something like that with SAC in 2022. That'll also probably be at the end of January. And it would be wonderful if we tied in with the village. This will be more action oriented. But as I come here today, I know you all have done so many things. You've looked into charging stations, electric vehicles, community choice aggregation for electricity, seasonal ban on gas leaf blowers, light bulbs, solar grants. And this is wonderful. You also were the first in the state to do plastic bag bans. And now is the time to actually put all of these things together under one roof. And our suggestion to you is, number one, declare a climate emergency. I've sent you all an example of East Hampton's climate emergency declaration. Southampton is now considering it. You could beat them to the punch, or this is a great opportunity to work together with them. Also on some of these other things I'll tell you about in the beginning. But beginning with this overarching idea of a climate emergency declaration, then so many other things fall underneath, because we know that this is the primary and dominant thing. This controls all of our ecosystems. On a personal note, I don't live in the village. I live just up on Edgewoods Road. We have 2 acres, and the southern pine beetles made their way to our property. We bought this because it was a little pine forest. And in 1 month, we lost all 200 pine trees except 2. So we lost 200 pine trees. It's absolutely devastated our property because of the southern pine beetle coming to an area where it hadn't originally been seen. So if we're looking for the experience of climate change in our lives, it's a lot closer than we think of it. So number one is having a resolution for a climate emergency declaration. That's our proposal. It would be great to do it right now, because I think it would be wonderful to have the new master plan be able to respond to that overarching idea. Also, it's a great time because Southampton Town is working on it now, and it would be a synergy between you all. It also goes beyond electricity. Sometimes we think of climate change and we just think of those fossil fuels. And you'll notice if you read the declaration that I've sent you, that it goes beyond just the issues of energy and electricity. Second, we suggest that you appoint a climate action committee. Now, maybe you'd like to name it something differently, but having it there with you all, I know you've been having a hard time with too many committees lately, but this is the most important one, obviously. But with strategic members, each one versed maybe in a different arena of the solution sets. And of course, I'm also going to propose that Sheila Piper, who's here with us tonight, be appointed to the committee. She is an amazing organizer. And you would be so lucky, and I would propose that Mike Lieberman is the other person that we know today that you appoint to that committee. He does this activity day in, day out in his job as long-range town planner for the town of Southampton. It would be a real gift if you would, to the town, if you bring him in, and a gift of his energies, if he would accept the position. Also, by appointing a climate action committee, it can speed up all the rest of your work. They can oversee the other projects, and it can, I believe, make life more efficient for you instead of less efficient. Third, adopt a resolution for carbon neutrality. And part A would be for government-related activities, infrastructure, and part B would be for the community. Again, I've sent you a resolution from a town there that you can check out. Number 4 would be to sign on as a New York State climate smart community. Other communities have done that, including Suffolk County, East Hampton, Southampton, Greenport. When I hear Greenport, I go, okay, it's time for us to do it for sure if they've done it, because we can't let those guys get ahead. But anyway, and another part that also goes along with that is the clean energy community. So signing on to those 2 things would give us structure. And I've asked Mike, he'll talk more on those in a minute. And the 4th would be to appoint or hire staff, coordinator, volunteers, or whatever is needed for the execution of the above items. And the above items may actually bring in their own money, because for the climate smart community, you can apply for grants, and that would be money in your pockets. So I'm going to ask Mike, could you take it over now and give us a little more information about,
Sure.
Thank you.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Laura, you're too kind, and I'm excited to speak with you all. Thank you, Mayor Warren and the Board of Trustees, and I apologize if I use any vernacular that's for the town. I might call someone a supervisor or a councilman, but I'm excited here today to talk about these issues, and I wanted to commend the village on what they're doing and what they've done in the past, and that's kind of why we're here, because a lot of these action items that you've completed are action items within the Climate Smart Community Program. And the Climate Smart Community Program kind of assists municipalities in how best to pursue state and national agendas when it comes to climate change, environmental efficiencies, reducing our carbon footprint, and sea level rise. And it's typically in a lot of different elements, but that's its role. And for smaller municipalities that don't have full-time staff, who don't have teams of people thinking out of the box on how to solve these solutions, well, it creates this platform for everyone to kind of share their ideas and pursue it together. Because ultimately, no one's reinventing the wheel. Every municipality, at least especially on the coastal municipalities, are all dealing with sea level rise. Every municipality is dealing with their infrastructure slowly going out of date and needing to be upgraded. And we're all now looking at EV charging stations. So all of this is very applicable. Now, I can talk about this all day, and I know Dar will kill me if I do. And according to Dar, as well as the press, I found out apparently I speak very quickly, so if I say anything that no one understands, or I can reiterate, I don't mind. But programs like the Climate Smart Community, as well as the Clean Energy Community, they are funded by the state, and they have research institutes like NYSERDA behind them, and or DEC and or other state agencies. And they also have funding. So for instance, the Clean Energy Community a couple of years ago had a couple $100,000 in funding, and one needed to submit 3 out of the 10 action items that they had available. And it was first come, first serve. And the town of Southampton achieved maybe 3 or 4. And then the money dried up, and we were late to the ball game. And I don't recall the figures, but let's say it was $300,000 in grant funding. And by the end of it, we ended up completing, I think, 8 of the 10 action items. It may have been one of the only municipalities that complete that many. So we were already pursuing this. Now, they've recently redid this program, and there's now additional funding, and it's first come, first serve. And there are action items that the village may be interested in pursuing, such as CCA or New York Stretch Code, which, depending on the size of the municipality, some of these action items have upwards of $50,000 attached to them in their grant. Where if you have, like, for instance, community campaigns, if you meet the criteria of the 4 community campaigns pushing, let's say, EV charging stations, and I can't recall the other 3, you're eligible for that funding. Now, the village is a smaller municipality, and please forgive me because I can only remember the town stuff. I can't always remember the village. But all of this is very attainable. And so what Dar has pointed out to you is by making this declaration, putting a team together, hiring staff, you're basically creating, you're crafting this narrative in this pursuit. And the next logical conclusion is to participate in these programs and then reap the funding from it, and then use that funding to purchase EV charging stations or whatever the village is seeking to do. So I think that's a pretty fair synopsis of the two programs. If anyone has any questions, I don't have to talk at you. This can be more of a dialogue. If not, Sheila, I think it's all yours.
Okay, well, I just want to thank everyone again for listening so carefully, and also just for being leaders who truly want to be in the forefront of the issues that face our whole world today, and of course our community within it. Southampton Village can rightfully be very proud of having strived to protect the natural beauty of our area, the historic foundation of the community, and the many qualities that make this village a wonderful place to live. But now we are at a tipping point that affects everyone. And it's just kind of interesting because the press came out today. I get it in hard copy. I should probably be reading it online to be more ecological. But there were probably 3 or 4 articles that directly related to climate change and columns. And they were all saying the same thing. This is going to affect us. This is coming to our area. We really need to be concerned. So we know that the citizens of Southampton Village are looking to you as our leaders to set the pace for combating all these economic, health, and lifestyle dangers that are posed by climate change. New York State has acknowledged this threat by passing the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act in 2019. I'm sure that as local government officials, you are aware of the mandates of this legislation, and it sets a path to carbon neutrality and calls for significant renewable energy and emission targets. So if we act now and declare a climate emergency and establish a clear process for taking action on the climate, as such as what you've heard presented here, you will not only be complying with this mandate, but will also ensure a cutting-edge master plan, save the village money, open the door to many new opportunities, and create a vibrant and viable future for us all. Thank you very much for listening. Dar?
And I would just like to close by saying, in the drawdown tradition, the idea of coming together as community collaborating with creativity is something that would be so awesome for the village of Southampton in so many ways. And we can do it in a way that brings health and wealth to our community at the same time. So Mayor Jesse and trustees Mark, Gina, Joe, and Andrew, thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate you attending to this with the haste that you can bring to important matters.
Thank you very much, Dar and Sheila and Mike. Great to see you guys here. I just wanted to open this up to our board for any questions they might have. So just wanted to turn it over to our trustees.
Hi, Mike, Sheila, and Dorothy. Thanks for coming on, giving us that. I had the opportunity to catch up with Sheila and Dorothy the other day, and they gave me a great amount of information. So this is really cool. I know Dorothy and Sheila, you guys are really into this, and it's great that you guys are bringing it to our attention. And we have done quite a few things in the last few years and beyond, and doing this is a really good concept. When you're talking about the committees and you talk about this, the action committee, how many people do you see besides Michael and Sheila that you would want to have on this committee? And the makeup is obviously different strengths of each people, because you're covering a grand scale about the environment is really what it is, right? It's not just focused on one particular thing. Right now, we're very much water quality, and you brought on the fact that, again, everything around is eventually going to come down to the ground and seep. So it's interesting the way that you played it out. So I'd just like a little bit more about the committee, how many people, What its objectives be will be go by what the state is, which I think is a great thing to have, with the state being able to guide us through these things.
I can only go by my experience and my education. When we were forming Drawdown East End, we were looking at what is the most effective way to have a committee together. And the studies that we looked at showed that if we had between 4 and 8 people, that would be an optimum grouping of people. So I do really think it would be up to you. Probably in this instance, more than 4, but maybe to make it easy to contain, not more than 8. Also, I think that if you read over the climate emergency declaration, that might give you a sense, and also talk with Mike about what categories we might want to bring into that committee that would address different issues. So that's all I know about that. Mike, have you got some ideas?
Well, sure. I mean, I agree with Dar. I think between 4 and 8 is appropriate. When you look at the town, we have the Green Committee, and I'm not sure how many are voting members. It feels like 15, maybe 20. And then we also have our own Climate Smart Community Task Force, which was more of an internal meeting, internal group with maybe 1 to 2 members from the Sustainability Committee, and then a lot of staff. So I think it kind of, we need an appropriate mix between staff as well as volunteers and expert, those who are expert in specific fields. But you know, let's see what's available to us. More tools in the tool shed is great, but at the same time, we don't want too many cooks in the kitchen. I'm just full of these little.
Thanks for the question,
and
Mark.
I was just going to stress that this would be an action committee, a climate action now committee, so that you don't, a committee like this can always call in people who have expertise and ask them to complete a particular task, but they don't necessarily have to be on a committee. We have a lot of resources here in this village and in the general area, so I'm sure we would have no problem finding people who are really smart about this aspect of things, but you don't want to have it be top heavy.
Yeah.
Great. That answers a lot of questions about that. So thank you all.
Thanks, Mark.
I'll just say thank you, Dar, Sheila, and Mike, for taking the time the other day to talk with me. At least Sheila and Dar, you're very thorough, and thank you for recognizing the work that we've already done so far. But there's a lot more work to be done, and I would be very much in favor of looking at what you are proposing and applying it to our village. I think it's a very thorough perspective, and I think anything we can do as trustees to move things along to make things better for the environment obviously is a plus for all of us now and in the future. As I always say, the 5 of us are stewards of this village for only a short period of time that we're here to serve. So we should do our best, and so I will be looking forward to having a committee and to implementing these things, these items that you are discussing here this evening, and we discussed in private.
Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Joe.
Dar, Sheila, Mike, thank you. You mentioned early on that there are 80 solutions that Drawdown East has to pick from, and they've prioritized them. Out of those 80, I mean, how many are viable for the village, do you feel, and how do we kind of concentrate and look at prioritizing those that are viable for the village to try and move forward with?
I think that's a question of the century, Andrew. Thank you for that. When I had that same query before I knew Mike Lieberman, I went to the village and say, hey, as town planner, could you help me with this? And on a Sunday, he came over and we took the book and the 80 solutions and we went through every single policy and resolution of the town to decide what had already been done, what was on the books, what hadn't been looked at, and what was inappropriate for the village. So it's not something that that I could say right off the bat, hey, you could do this. Mike can fill you in a little bit more. It is interesting to note that the number one solution is eliminating food waste, not by composting it, but by not creating food waste to begin with. And so how might we deal with our restaurants or our grocery stores? How might we use that food that's acceptable in ways that could feed our poorer populations or something like that? And I don't know if that's something that could be done on the village level or not. But it is interesting, I can assure you that. Mike, would you like to
Yeah,
comment?
then I'll thank you for that. And Mike, I mean, out of those 80 that you've thumbed through, what did the town take on of those 80?
Well, that's a great question. And when I sat down with Dara, that might have been 3 years ago. So my memory is only so strong. But I'll say this: there are macro concepts that the town. So let's say a macro concept is reducing one's carbon or walkability. I remember that being a theme within Drawdown. Walkability was essential. Okay, well, what is walkability in zoning? Well, that perhaps is more affordable housing in our downtown area. That is thinking about biking and internet connectivity and perhaps more public transportation. All of that's about reducing our carbon footprint, creating more walkability. So it's when you start to think about the macro of it, finding the little action items that fit under that umbrella is quite easy, and some are very applicable to the village and the town. In certain instances, I think like refrigerator. I remember this being a theme within Drawdown. Refrigerators. Yeah, well, I don't know what our angle is there. Perhaps there's some kind of zoning standards we could apply, but I'm not really sure if we could. But some are very applicable. But what I would like to say is, again, the Climate Smart Community Program and the Clean Energy Community Program, they have their whole list of action items. And we look at those and we say, okay, well, this fits with Drawdown. Here's synergy. And that even kind of prioritizes that action item because we're like, okay, well, not only is the state calling for it, not only is this other program funding it in some capacity, and then we have Drawdown that's saying this is something we need to be paying attention to. It kind of again, it's all about that narrative. It helps us, find our way through this because while I referenced earlier, yes, none of us are reinventing the wheel, but we're all kind of new to the game. These are all kind of new problems, or at least our response is new. They've perhaps been around for a long time.
Great. Thank you, Mike.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you, Dora and Sheila and Mike, and thank you for our meeting the other day. It was very nice to meet you. Well, to meet Dora, Sheila I know for a very long time. But I think it's very exciting, especially now since we are going to, we're looking at the master plan once again with BFJ Planning and Frank Fish. So I think it's a very important time to incorporate the two things together. So, and I look forward to doing that, to implementing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. I think you made a really good point about the timeliness of these two things.
Yes. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you, everyone. I'll make it brief because I know we have a few important public hearings on the agenda, but absolutely right. The timing happens to be very good between updating our master plan and drawdown activities. And so we should definitely focus on those drawdown items when we update our master plan over the next 6 to 10 months, as Mike pointed out, particularly to focus on walkability, the trends of walkable cities right now, obviously using more hybrid electric vehicles, food and waste management. I know Deputy Mayor Arrest has been working on tree plantings, and we can definitely improve that as well. There's obviously, various actions we can take. So I think it'd be great for our board at our next meeting to review the resolutions and declarations, as well as start to form the committee. And we have a meeting in 12 days. So we're hoping that we can turn this around quickly and get this moving. And thank you again to the group and the Drawdown East End team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have 2 public hearings tonight. The first public hearing is the continuation regarding demolition of structures. And that is the ARB to amend the Village Code, Chapter 116-37, So I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing to amend the Village Code, Chapter 116-37 regarding building permits, certificates of occupancy, fees, enforcement for demolition of existing structures. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Mayor,
Yes.
I have a hand up beside your presentation with John Bennett. Do I bring him in?
Let's, I guess we want to bring everyone in. Do you want to start with the written comments first, or?
Well, actually, Mayor, Jeff Broadleaf is on and he had requested that he present first. I'm not, is Jeff here? Can we just get some comment from him as to what his rationale is?
He's in. Let me just ask him to unmute.
Good evening, Jeff.
Hey there, how are you?
I know, Jeff,
So-
you had sent me a note and asked if you could go present first. That's why I was.
Yes, I would, and then following my statement and brief presentation, Paul Travis from the Planning Commission would like to chime in as well. So Kat, can we go to, hold on, let me just do one thing here. Let's get this up here. And then let's go to share screen. Hold on a second, Kat. Okay, hold on. Let me do this here. Let's see.
You got this, Jeff. You
Okay.
know how.
There's Paul looking good. Let me see where this was. Hold on. Hold on a second, Kat.
Yep, I'm holding.
Okay. So you want me to click on what I want to share, correct?
Yes, and then you click the big green share screen button, and it will ask you.
Okay,
That will
hold
ask
on.
you which desktop you want to share.
Okay. Okay, now let me just move this over here. Okay, great. Okay, there we go.
Got to share it though.
Okay, there we go.
There you go. It's coming up.
Okay, great. Thank you, folks.
Perfect.
So what I'd like to spend a little bit of time doing is just reprising what the issue was. So we came before you a couple of months ago saying that there were houses of historic value that were being demolished, or at least going through a process without community review and without transparency. And as a result, some significant houses fell through the cracks, whether they be big houses or whether they be village houses. And that the problem was that we had established some 20 years ago a fixed date before which, if the houses were built before 1926, they went before the ARB, but if they were built after 1926, they effectively did not go before the Architectural Review Board. And as such, they were granted demolition permission within the building department and without public review and consideration. Even though there were some provisions that the building department would apply to houses that were in this outside the historic district but built before 1926, these guidelines, but it wasn't necessarily universally applied. And again, some houses fell through the cracks. So we suggested a simple, what we thought was a simple solution of simply establishing a rolling date of 50 years, which if houses were greater than 50 years, then they would come before the ARB. If not, they would remain in the building department with the same 5 criteria that currently exist. What came out of that meeting and with subsequent conversations with trustees and with various interested parties, that the concern came down to 2 factors, breadth and depth. That looking back 50 years took us to 1971, which would then expose scores of houses built in the 50s and 60s, including mine and apparently trustee Mark's as well, to go through what to some is an arduous process of public notification and public hearing to get what would otherwise be a slam dunk permission to demolish their house. And while there may be some notable modern structures within that, for the most part, the houses built in the 50s and 60s, probably very few of them have any historic value that would lead to any question or the need for a public hearing. Then the second aspect was depth. If we do subject these houses to public review, then it's a process, as you know, you have to not only file the normal applications one would, but then you have to also provide for public notice at least 2 weeks before, get on the agenda, and then it takes time after that. So we recognize those concerns and provided what we think are the workable solutions. And when I say we, this is truly a we with the input from the various trustees on the board. Mark, you're the only one, and not just schedules didn't mesh, so it's no fault of your own. But anyway, this represents input from the trustees I spoke to, the building department, the building inspector, Chris, and others. So the solution, if this breadth is too broad, well, then you narrow it. If the depth is too deep, then you decrease it. So to narrow the breadth, rather than looking back 50 years, we're recommending looking back 70 years. So that only houses built before 1951 would be subject to automatic public review. So that obviously takes out of public review the houses after that. The second one was to decrease the depth by providing for an expedited path to demolition approval, so that for houses less than 50 years, to do what we do similar to signs, we have a subcommittee, but in this case, and the subcommittee reacts almost immediately to an application submission along with the building department's normal procedure. So in this case, the applicant would submit their request for demolition. The building department would advise the subcommittee. The subcommittee doesn't have to get together formally. They look at it. In this case, we would include the building inspector and an historical consultant to provide advice. And for those houses that it was deemed don't meet those 5 criteria, then it would be processed as normal within the building department. So again, narrowing down the breadth to make it more reasonable in terms of the coverage, and then also decreasing the process itself. So for me tonight, my understanding and view and hope is that you've heard a little bit from me. Paul Travis from the Planning Commission will make a statement. Then we're happy to have discussion with the board and obviously to respond to any public comment. And then any further discussion that's needed and whatever the procedure is to either vote for approval tonight or closure for public discussion, and then to submit it to council for drafting, such that at the next meeting, we'll have the code, and then you folks can do your final review and make a final approval and adoption. I'm not 100% familiar with your process. I believe this is a procedure, but so let me do this. Let me turn it over for the moment to Paul. I'm going to stop screen share, right, Kat? Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, stop.
I got you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So I'll turn it over to Paul.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Thank you and good evening, Mayor and trustees. I am Paul Travis, a former member and chair of the Planning Commission. I wanted to share with you tonight some background on the issue of demolition of older structures. In 2015, the mayor and trustees requested the Planning Commission to undertake a comprehensive review of the zoning code and related provisions. The reason for the request was the continued creation of much larger houses in the village, both through expansion of existing structures and older houses being demolished and replaced. In 2016, the trustees approved hiring Glynis Berry of Studio AB Architecture to research the statistics and propose solutions. Using the town GIS data, Studio AB found conclusive proof that since 2000, houses had become significantly larger in virtually all neighborhoods across the village. The commission worked with Studio AB and consulted with then board chairs, Chris Talbot at the building department and the village attorney to create a range of alternative solutions. Curtis Highsmith, then chair of the ARB, was very helpful in looking at the issues with historic structures. 3 public workshops were held to get public input and guidance and were attended by a range of interested citizens, architects, lawyers, and developers. I want to acknowledge the key role of trustee Joe McLaughlin as a member of the commission and then commission member Eldon Scott. Studio AB identified 10 areas in need of regulatory reform. One of these was preservation of historic character. Glynis noted the lack of best in practice processes and the resulting widespread degradation and removal of the historic fabric of the village. And that's a quote from her report. Glynis was struck by the difference between Southampton and the codes in East Hampton and Sag Harbor. The Studio AB recommendation had 3 aspects. One was to update design guidelines for the ARB to use in reviewing massing, lighting, and landscaping. Second was to provide public oversight and input for demolition or alteration of historic structures. And the third was increasing the number of structures that must be reviewed for a certificate of appropriateness by updating the historic district inventory and boundaries. Studio AB proposed 2 options for the second item, which is what you're discussing tonight, providing public oversight and input for demolition or alteration. In either option, the ARB was deemed to be the proper form with input from the building department. The first option, based on National Historic Guidelines, was to require ARB review of proposed demolition or renovation of any structure over 50 years old. The second was to select a fixed date. After several public hearings regarding this item, the Planning Commission noted the number of non-contributing buildings after 1950 that would otherwise be included and recommended a fixed date to the trustees. There was extensive discussion of alternative dates. Both 1940 and 1950 were recommended as potential dates. While several of the zoning recommendations were adopted, the mayor and trustees unfortunately did not complete their review and action on many of the items, and no action was taken on the recommended changes for the demolition process. So that was in 2018. It's an issue that's concerned the commission for many years. It's an issue that actually was brought up in the comprehensive plan in 2000. And I commend the diligent work by the chair of the ARB and the members of the ARB to bring this issue back to the public forum. I believe the proposal presented tonight by Jeff Broadleaf after public and trustee comments is an excellent and well thought out solution. I also wanted to respond to the comments made at your earlier public hearing that this proposal will lower property values. As some may remember, there was a almost civil war in Southampton Village 14 years ago when the first reform of the residential zoning code was proposed. Packed public hearings were full of statements about how tightening the code would be the end of the real estate market and destroy homeowners' property values. Several years later, under the leadership of C-Mac Sammy, the commission recommended and the trustees adopted a form-based code and the pyramid law. And the same arguments were heard again, including by some of those who testified at your last hearing on this item. When the reductions in FAR in residential districts were approved in 2018, again, the trustees were told the real estate market would collapse because, as a quote from the hearing, it is too difficult to build in Southampton. None of these predictions were accurate. I think everyone here knows their house is worth much more today than in 2007. And for better or worse, builders continue to select Southampton Village for their projects. It turns out the unique character of the village, which you have an opportunity to move forward on preserving tonight, is more important to long-term property values. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul and Jeff. Thank you very much also for your work on your respective boards and commissions. So we appreciate those presentations. We can now open this up for public comment and comment from the board. But before we get going, I just wanted to say that this is a public hearing. This is a Board of Trustees meeting, and with that simply comes general courtesy and respect and camaraderie with our public. And we just want to make sure that our comments tonight that we put on the public record, despite various differences of opinion, do reflect those ideals that should be representative of the village. So with that being said, and then on top of that, we're also have 3 minutes per public speaker and public comment. So I would like to open this up for public comment. I do see John's hand up, so we can let John in. And then
Okay.
anyone else who'd like to participate, also please raise your hand.
Okay, John's coming in. Start video.
Good evening. I'd like you to waive the 3 minutes because the other speakers weren't limited by that. First of all, let me understand, like everyone should understand, if you're going to adopt this 70-year rule, you now have a different law, which under the municipal home rule law, you have to publish and renotice. It's a significantly different law, so it can't be adopted the next meeting. You have to, there's nothing on your agenda tonight. You'd have to have a resolution to publish it, the proposed new law, set a date for a hearing for that. Anything else with this, you can't just change a significant part of the law like that and not republish. So I caution you on that as a former municipal lawyer and well-versed with the municipal home rule law, number one. Number two, I'm very saddened to see, despite claims of transparency and despite express statements that every individual property owner that was going to be affected by this was going to get an individual notice, none of that's happened. I did submit a letter today in which I submitted a sample of some notice that I got, very specific notice for a house I own in Boca Grande in Florida. Every specific property owner got specific notice, outlay of the law, the maps, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I understood that that was going to happen. I don't know why people are so concerned about transparency and further public discussion about this law. So that's something I would ask the board to keep to what their words were at the last time. I also stated that at a minimum, you don't have any change in any of the law and any of the village master plan that would be required. I finally did take a look at find this this uncredentialed just drive-by map, which was attached to a revised version of Jeff's submissions. Doesn't have what you need under there. And I can tell you right now that as an owner of one of these properties that's allegedly was unaltered, a mere look at the building inspector's records would have found that it was altered when I purchased it 15 years ago. Many of the houses on Jennings Avenue and Hildreth that are talked about as unaltered have been altered. I know the area very well. Two of them that are said have been unaltered were owned by two of my great aunts. I know that they've been altered. They haven't lived there for probably more than my lifetime, and they have been altered. So the methodology is suspect at best. By my own just grab of this little block there, the report was not done under a trustee resolution. There's not a credentialed report. There's no surveys, photos, record searches, no building department searches for the individual lot. If you go over to the town of Southampton, even though they don't have a mandatory preservation law, you will see two huge fat volumes of an inventory of historic houses that has been undertaken that has a full search of the deed search, building permit searches. I can just across the street from 61 Jennings, which I own, which has been altered. I altered it myself. Across the street is a house that says unaltered across the street on Jennings. It had a massive addition about 5 years ago, almost doubling the size of the house. So just this little grab shows that this study is not valid. So what you should do is you should notify everybody, as you said you were going to do, and then commission a credentialed full study, not just a neighborhood drive-by where somebody says, I like that house. I don't think it's been altered. We should make that full black. I like that house too. We don't think it's been altered. You can't just say something hasn't been altered because of the way that you look at it. The methodology is appropriate to look at the building search, do searches in the municipal records, all public records, deed searches, every building permit searches, every one of these houses that I've seen that says unaltered, and just that little grab between Hildreth and Jennings and Layton, I bet you 75% of them say unaltered. have had building permits and have had significant additions. And interestingly enough, some of
Mr. Bennett, it's been 3 minutes.
yeah, okay, but some of, and here's the real problem with the law, some of the houses that say they have been altered, haven't been altered. So just in this little grab, I'm showing you how deficient the study is. Do what you said you were going to do, give notice to every property owner, do a credentialed study, and at a minimum, you've got to renotice this law, because if you take Jeff's suggestion, because now you have a new law.
Thank you very much for the public comment. We appreciate it. Is there any other additional public comment? Okay, we see Evelyn Conrad.
Yep. Hello, Evelyn. Start your video and unmute.
You need to hear me. You don't need to see me. Anyway, it is because of the difficulty of changing the definition of historic houses that I thought there might be a different addition to the code and to the evaluation by the ARB, namely a house that, while it may not qualify under the present standard as historic, is architecturally valuable or historically valuable or community variable. And those are standards that are more easy to define, to document with participation by the village. And you do not need to change as dramatically the historic, which I thought might get a pushback. By the way, I am with anything that preserves any of our historic values. So I am only suggesting this as a possible alternative. As for John Bennett's comments, which I valued very much, but I'm very curious why, with all this precision about procedure, he represents so many people who violate restrictive covenants, deeds, state laws, and so forth. So, you know, nobility is in what you perceive. But forgive me, I don't mean to make this an attack thing. I mean to make this a possibility of not making as huge an alteration, which might get opposition, and finding a way to still preserve what is important to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Evelyn.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Are there any additional public comments?
No hands up, Mayor.
Mayor, in addition, there was a letter that John Bennett had made reference to that he did submit to the board, along with a copy of the notification that he did receive for his Florida property. And I have hard copies here that were delivered this afternoon, and they're in all the trustees' mailboxes.
Thank you. Ken, quick question for you. If we make if this proposed local law is amended, can we adjourn this and then still amend it and then renotice it? Or how do you think we should proceed?
Yeah, I agree with actually Council Bennett, who made the comment and suggestion that if there's a significant change to the proposed local law, that it needs to be renoticed. We don't need to close this public hearing necessarily. We can continue the public hearing, but it needs to be renoticed. The draft of the changes need to be available to the public and given to the Board of Trustees at least 5 days before the next public hearing, so that they have it for consideration. But I do agree that when you're in a public hearing on a proposed local law and there's a quote unquote significant suggested amendment to it, that you have to keep the public hearing open, you have to continue it, and you have to renotice it and provide copies to the public and to the Board of Trustees.
All right, thank you. So that makes sense. So let's I'll make a motion to adjourn this, and then we can, if the ARB would like to make any changes, then we can renotice it. So
Before we do, can I just ask a procedural question, Ken? On the drafting between now and the 5 days before it's submitted to the trustees, Alice Cooley, our legal counsel, felt that while we could take a stab at it, the final drafting should be that of the village attorney as it is code. Is that it? What your understanding is? And we can discuss that offline. I just want to make sure that we're in sync in terms with what has to be done.
Yeah, I'm, I'm not concerned about the authorship. I'm just making sure that the code gets drafted the way it's supposed to get
Right.
drafted. So we will coordinate with Alice Cooley concerning the final language that gets presented to the board with the proper notice
Okay.
to the public and the board.
Okay, good. Without being funny, that's cool. E. Okay.
Got it.
That's cool. Sorry. All right, thanks. Sorry.
No worries.
Jeff, we'll forgive you. Next time we won't.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I should stick to something
Yeah,
else
you
other
stick to
than
your name.
comedy.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Okay.
Okay. Actually, before we adjourn this, I did want to see if any of the.
I do have one quick comment.
Yes, please.
I know. Just one quick question, Ken. Could you possibly do some more research and see if when the code was changed from November 1st of 26, would you see if at that time were all these homes built before 26? Will they notice? Because Mr. Bennett seems to want to have us notify residents for this change, and I don't begrudge that request. However, I do want to know if the administration at the time of when the code was changed in, I believe, some time ago for this historic date of 26, was that ever noticed to the public in the same forum that Mr. Bennett is requesting we do it today?
I will certainly take a look at that, trustee. To be off the top of my head, to be honest, I suspect that the village did not notify individual residents, but that I might be surprised by that. But we will take a look at that, and I'll work with Charlene to see if we can delve into the village records to see exactly what notice was taken at that time.
Again, I don't begrudge the requests, but if we're going to be looking at that kind of procedure, I just want to know if there's a precedent for that for this village.
Very well. I'll work with Charlene to see if we can dig up those records.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee McLaughlin. Are there any other comments from the board?
Yeah, I'll just make a quick few. Jeff, yes, I apologize. We did miss each other, but we'll connect.
That's okay. Well, do you know a good place to get some coffee?
No, I don't. Anyway, thank you for reaching out and speaking to the other ones, and you and I will have a conversation. But one thing I brought up at the last meeting is about the nature of these meetings on Zoom and how it's difficult for a lot of people to really log on and get on. And I do feel this particular type of discussion really should be in an open forum where you really do have that general, just everybody getting together and really voicing. And we've had a couple letters, we've had a couple people come on, and what I'm understanding is that this is a really passionate, and Paul, you brought up 14 years ago, and I do remember all that. And it got a little bit hairy at times, that's for sure.
Yes.
But we got through it.
Right.
And was it perfect? Some will say no, some will say it was good enough. I don't really know about that yet. But I do know that I feel strongly about getting back into having specific public hearings with people coming in, because that's how we get to understand what really is going on, what the public who represent really are looking for. So I really want to make that as an important thing to do. May 19th, we are scheduled to be open 100% according to the governor. Again, we do have spaces where we can do this, and it's been talked about in some letters to us. So I'd like to see that happen, especially on this particular subject, because it is passionate on so many levels to so many people. And there was talk about an outside group on the last meeting too. Is that something that I think that might be something to look at? We are always looking for an outside consultant to come and do things. And I think it's something that the board, in my recommendation, would look at as we move forward in this process. But Jeff, thank you for reaching out and making some changes. And Paul, thank you for your insight. So that's about it.
And I just want to make one last quick comment. I just want the public to be aware that I did reach out to the majority of the ARB. I'm sorry I didn't get to speak with all of them since the last meeting. However, I think I know members of the public were very frustrated with the 50-year rolling date, and that's why I made sure that we can have a compromise. I know even Councilman Bennett said that we said we can change the date. So I just want to make it clear to the public that we are listening, and these things are not to be done shot from the hip. So I do appreciate the feedback, and I am listening as the liaison to the building department, and having gone to the majority of the ARB and GB meetings for the last several years. Prior to COVID, I can tell you that it's a difficult job that the ARB has to listen to all these applications and to make these determinations. And I want to see if we can make our job easier and to make their job easier as well. And of course, we don't want to hinder the public. We're also here to preserve our village in its historic fabric, and that's what we have to do. And I think again, we're getting there, but hopefully, again, if we can renotice this and make sure we can go forward accordingly and get this done within a reasonable time. That's what I work to see happen. So thanks.
Thank you, Trustee McLaughlin, for the
We
comments.
have one hand up.
Any other comments from the board before we move on?
Mayor Warren, did you hear me though?
Yes.
Okay.
But Ken, I think we're doing 3 minutes per public speaker, so
Okay.
it should be one comment. So if just want to make sure we're bringing in a new person.
It's Evelyn. She put her hand down.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And okay, any other additional comments from the board? Okay. The only thing I'd like to say is I agree with our some of our speakers tonight, and obviously preserving the historical integrity of the village is critical, and it's something that obviously we need to be spending more time looking at. I think there was a focus for the last 14 months on a pandemic, and now obviously it's time to get back to some of the issues that are at the heart of our village, and historical preservation is one of them. And we want to make sure that we can keep some of our historical structures. And we're also, again, we mentioned this earlier, looking forward to update our master plan, which will address this. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the public hearing. We could adjourn it to our next public work session, which, Charlene, do you know when that's going to be? Is it going to be June 10th?
Our next meeting, Mayor, is June 10th.
Okay, make a motion to adjourn to June 10th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, our next public hearing tonight.
Thanks, Doris.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, our next public hearing is the public hearing to amend code 116-23, add food pantry permitted use. So I'd like to make a motion for a proposal to amend the village code, chapter 116-23, special conditions and safeguards for certain uses and residence districts, table of use regulations, and more specifically, adding a new section to establish a food pantry use. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Shirlene, was there any written comment?
We did not receive any. I think maybe Ken can just explain a little bit about the code change that is proposed here, and then we'll see if anybody would like to speak.
Very good. Thank you, Charlene. This is actually a code change specifically to the village's agreement they have with Heart of the Hamptons to operate in the location in the village. And we wanted to make sure that we were doing it appropriately. So there was a proposed local law to add the use in the table of use regulations for a food pantry in a residential area. And we put some conditions in there concerning parking spaces and no outdoor public address system or music system, so that there's would be very limited disruption in the residential area. So if anybody has any specific questions, And I don't know if anybody from the Heart of the Hamptons is on the call or not, but that's pretty much what the local law is proposed to do.
I do have one question, Ken, if I may.
Sure.
Because the that location is obviously it's a back portion of the church parking lot. It also sits across the street from a office building and a apartment house and a museum. So is that the street? I know it's residential, but is that section is it mixed use office residential, or is it? I mean, do we know exactly what because again, the street is kind of half residential, half office mixed use. So I don't know if that really matters to any degree, but I'm just curious to know because it is kind of mixed use, especially in that one area of
I do understand what you're saying, and that there's a lot of a lot of different activity going on there, but you have to look at the individual parcel and as to what that is deemed, and that is deemed a residential parcel.
So it was never rezoned when it was built, when the ambulance facility was originally built there?
Not to my knowledge.
That was my question.
Thank you, Trustee McLaughlin. Any other comments from the board or the public?
No hands up.
Okay, if not, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
All right, there was a communication to the board. That's our next section of our agenda. That's regarding the Powell Avenue Sidewalk Project. There's a letter of opposition from Gloria Palmore. Charlene, I'm not sure if you are going to read that or just will put this as part of our written record. Totally up to you.
Yes, there was a letter that had gone out to the Powell Avenue residents from our DPW director, Gary Gillespie, explaining that the improvements that were going to be made, and Miss Gloria Palmore, who lives at 150 Powell Avenue, did submit a letter to the village board and to Mr. Gillespie, basically stating that she objected to the project. She said the south side is residential, the north side of Powell Avenue is commercial. She gave various reasons, but she just she wanted to make it known that she believed that due to the pedestrian traffic on the south side of the parking where the vehicles are, they back out of their driveway. She thought it was, she felt it would be unsafe. So that was the only communication to the board.
All right, thank you, Charlene. All right, the next discussion item is Southampton in the streets. So we're looking forward to having some discussion about a great project that our board worked together on last year in order to close the streets and open them to pedestrians only. It was a great start last year, but definitely there's room for improvement. We also may have a firm that might be available for this discussion item. If not, they'll be available during our resolutions, and they would like to give us a quick update as to some help during this, during Southampton in the streets. And that also is in collaboration with a few members of the Business Revitalization Committee. But just wanted to open this up to the board for some discussion. The goal here is to determine to what extent do we want to do this, what dates, and also avenues for improvement. So if there's any board members who would like to lead with the discussion, feel free.
Sure, Mr. Mayor, I'll start. I had sent an email around, last week talking about dates, because I think it's very important that we kind of try and solidify for the business district, for the residents, for the restaurants, for our DPW workers, to be able to gear up and be ready for it. And I know last year it was kind of an anomaly, and kind of on the Tuesday or Wednesday we would get together, and maybe we were doing it, maybe we weren't. So I think that if we were to lay out a timeline that we agreed to, and that's one of the things I put in the, in the email. I think it would be very good. I think it would show a progression over last year. It would also allow stores that wish to stay open then to be able to staff up for it. It would also allow our restaurants to be able to staff up, to be able to have rent tables for those restaurants that need to rent tables to place into the street, to gear up for food and all of that. So I think it really makes sense to do that. I understand that, there were some public that wasn't crazy about, the way this was done and everything. And I do understand that, but I do think overall it was a very good thing for Southampton, for the residents, for the people that came into the village and felt safe because of the spacing that could be done. I also noticed that we do have a resolution for someone, to possibly help us in a proposal. I would really love to see what that proposal entails, because as of right now, I have yet to hear anything from that group or anyone on the board with regards to it.
Thank you very much, Trustee Polaro. Are there any other comments from the board or discussion items?
I just want to say one quick thing, Mr. Mayor. One thing that came up to me amongst not only stores but the public, some of the public feels that they love the idea of closing the streets. However, the idea was given to me only close to rotate the streets, meaning to have Main Street closed one week and then have Jones Lane closed the next week. Because they believe that having both closed at the same time, and not enough stores or restaurants participating in full stop, it kind of makes things a little more difficult. So if it's to the board's liking to only have still have something in the streets, but to rotate the streets that will be closing, maybe have obviously maybe on the 4th of July weekend we can close both streets. But again, there was a lot of people who came up to me about traffic and concerned about there's not enough people to justify closing both streets at the same time. But I leave that to my colleagues to see what we want, but that's just my thoughts. And we should at least think about the idea of only closing one street at a time and going from there. So how does the rest of the board feel about that idea?
Well, I look forward to hearing what a consulting firm would say about this, because aside from the 4th of July, I thought it was very haphazard. There were a lot of complaints that I heard as well, because we excluded so many people that could not get to a restaurant. The seniors were excluded from this. Aside from the 4th of July weekend, the streets weren't full with people. COVID restrictions will be, I think, outdoors by that time. You wouldn't even need to have a mask. Well, I don't think you need a mask now when you to be outside. So I don't think we're dealing with the same thing that we dealt with last summer. Also, there was very little participation from retail, and traffic was a big concern. And even what Trustee McLaughlin just said about some of the restaurants, I know on the end of Job's Lane, they were excluded from what was happening, and it hurt them down on Job's Lane when the street was closed, when Main Street was closed. So, and there's also a big expense that people should be aware of, with a lot of overtime that's involved with closing the street, not only with the Department of Public Works, but also with the police. So I think that's something else that we need to look at. And hopefully, I know there's some people that want to make public comment, but they weren't ready because they're traveling today. So I hope that we can keep this open after perhaps see what the consulting firm has to say, or whatever suggestions, and then keep it open for public comment as well.
Hey, Kat, sorry to interrupt. I know that Jacqueline Bernstein from the Cerbelli team is here.
Yeah.
For any questions that the board might have.
Would you like her in?
If that's okay with the mayor and the board?
That'd be good. We can let her in this way. If any of the board members have some questions for her, that would be helpful. I totally agree with all of our board members as far as, determining the dates well in advance so our business owners have a time to adjust their schedules and make preparation. Also, after speaking to some seniors, they also said that they felt excluded from the activation because it was the parking was a bit further. So working with a consulting firm to kind of help us plan this out a little better might give those seniors an opportunity, or might provide a mechanism in order to provide better access to Main Street when parking might be further away. And traffic was also a bit of a concern. So, but also importantly, last year was a unique year. It was, once in a lifetime what happened. And so this year, we should really take this to a much more improved level. And we want to make sure that the activation, if we do it and determine which times to do it, is really elegant and aesthetically pleasing, and it's cohesive and coordinated, and that all businesses have an opportunity to participate. I know as a retail business owner, it actually was a little hard on us because when the streets were closed at about 5:45, 6 on a Saturday night, we usually have some good business between 6 and 7:30ish. I know other retailers felt that same way. So sometimes we actually lost a little bit of business at the end. So we also want to make sure that all the business owners feel like they're included in the process, and we'll definitely rely on the BRC for some help there. But again, just wanted to make sure that if any of the trustees had questions, we have Cerbelli Creative here, and they could talk to us about what they might be thinking, or about questions about the proposal.
Is there a proposal?
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Bernstein. I work with the Cerbelli team. My another partner of ours, Robert Holzmeyer, is also listening in, if you can let him in as well. The proposal that we had sent was a fee that we would ask to come in at to produce the event. And we also then listed for elements that we had sent to Miranda of what would be needed in the event, which would be additional investment expenses for the infrastructure, et cetera, for the event. So that's what we had sent at this time.
Okay, I thank you for that, Jacqueline. I have yet to see any of that. So again, that's one of the things when we got to the resolutions, I had questions on about the proposal. I mean, from this discussion item, I agree with everything that the other board has said, with regards, and I think Mayor, you summed it up nicely. It would be nice to have things down and in place and understand what we are doing, because last summer was very disjointed, and it didn't allow the businesses. But if we were to set out dates well in advance, it would allow the people to do this, and the business owners to staff up and be ready to possibly stay open, later some of those nights. So again, I think that on one of the last nights that we had it, we got in touch with the electric vehicles that bring people down to the beaches, and they were able to kind of go through and bring people from parking to other areas of it as well. As for the overtime, it is an expense. Trustee Arrester, you're absolutely right. It is an expense, and it's one that we as a board have to come and think, if we are reopening, if it is this something that we, even want, need, desire through our village? And, the public will, should have some say in it. So, reach out to any of your trustees, and let us know, because I don't know that we will have a public hearing on Southampton in the streets, but we are available certainly to listen to one's comments. And I would love if that proposal could be sent to me. I'd love to see what it is we'd be paying, to try and see, because as of yet, I right now, when the resolution comes up, I have no idea what that fee is for.
All right. Thank you very much for those comments. Really good comments there. Miranda is going to try to screen share this proposal so that you can see it. And then I just wanted to also add that, as we know, we've worked very hard, and thank you, Charlene, for really getting our new agenda software ready to go and up and running. And we've worked pretty hard to get our agendas out 48 hours in advance. And so the agenda was available for everyone to see 40 hours in advance. Trustees,
The
public.
agenda was available, and that I'm not questioning the agenda, Mr. Mayor. What I'm questioning is the proposal that was sent in at whatever date it was sent in to Miranda. I guess, Jacqueline, you sent it to Miranda. I have yet to see that proposal. That was, I mean, the resolution is on there, but the proposal is not. So I have not seen any of what is just being put up on the screen.
Thank you, Trustee Pilar. We understand that, and also I just want to let you know that Miranda works very hard around the clock. And if there's ever any item on the resolution that you have a question with, so we have this on our agenda tonight, feel free to ask for her, and she'd be happy to help coordinate, drop off or email any agenda item for you in advance. So just feel free to reach out to her so you can get the materials that you need. But again, she has this on the screen now, and you know, you're welcome to take a look, and we can keep this up for as long as you'd like.
Jacqueline, this is Trustee McLaughlin. I do have one quick question, if I may. What has been your communication with BRC? I am the trustee liaison to that body, and I wasn't able to attend the last meeting. However, I just didn't know what your communication with them has been. I know they work with Mr. John Lacerda to do their website and so forth, and I didn't know what communication you have had with the members who do their Instagram or so forth. I don't know. Again, what has been your dialogue with them, and what has been their feedback to you?
Sure. I have not personally had that communication. It was Michael Cirbelli of our partnership here. But the general gist right now was for us to submit what a scope of services would include for this event, and for us to be able to state that we could do it at the fee that was requested of us. So as much as we're looking at this on the screen, this is a general scope of what the potential investment, therefore expenses, would be, and what our fee would be. But we haven't had any further discussion. We were told that once it was reviewed, this is what potentially an event like this would financially entail, and with our fees, that it would be discussed about moving forward, and then we would get into all those details and have further conversation.
Just to clarify, is this one? Would you be? Is this for the whole season, or just for one weekend that you'd be assisting us with it?
It was actually. Oh, sorry. It was asked for 3 weeks. It was actually asked for 3 events: one in June, which we're almost there, and then one in July and one in August.
Okay.
But you know, that was a courtesy rate, as you could see right there on the screen, of a professional services fee for our coordination. But then when you see all additional expenses being listed, because you could see it says right there that $7,500 is not normally what we would charge for an event. We would at minimum be at $25,000 for an event. And obviously if it's a repeat event, there's some economies of scale where we could then reduce what the other 2 events would then be. But if you scroll down, after you see this entire list of all these expenses here, that each event is probably going to be an investment of $125,000. Look at all the infrastructure, potentially what you at the town might purchase directly, what might already have already. We might purchase it once for one event and then utilize it for the other 2 events. So this was just an opening dialogue to say, here's what the scope of services and the finances would be to do this event. And we were not involved with the event last year, so we would love to hear from you what worked, what didn't work, which you alluded to at the beginning of this conversation, and then financially, what was spent, so we can see how we can make this happen for you and whatever financial investment that you might have.
Okay. Now, were you approached by the mayor's office, or were you approached by or was your firm approached by the BRC?
You know, I apologize for not having that information. It was a business contact that Michael Cirbelli has, and please forgive me for not having that here. I think it was another gentleman named Michael that referred us then to Mayor Warren through the BRC as well to work on this.
And Trustee McLaughlin, the 2 chairs of the BRC approached us and had said they were hoping to get more involved, and they wanted to get a head start on this Southampton Streets, because it was a great event last summer, but definitely needed some room for improvement. So they had come to us and they said, you know, what ideas do we have to improve this? And so due to an introduction, we were able to kind of bring everyone together And we thought that this would be a good opportunity to explore. And we really appreciate the offer that they've given us. It seems like this could be a good opportunity to try this out as a pilot. But ultimately, again, we want to open this up for the board for questions so we can move forward. Hopefully, maybe this will be what we need in order to make this a better, more cohesive event that's more open to and more inclusive. And we also may have some businesses who might want to help sponsor some other additions, which could be a big help. Really, it's a community that's trying to come together, and a lot of business owners could be excited about this, but really it would need to be done in the right way to tie up some of those loose ends that really didn't work well last summer. Because in general it was a good event, but there was definitely some shortcomings that we could always improve on.
Right. I just want to make sure that we have the cohesiveness between the BRC and members there who are involved in promoting our village and who are involved in the marketing aspect of the BRC, to make sure that we do have a cohesive voice when it comes to having a firm like this come in to assist our summer season and doing these events. So.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, the BRC came to us and they were looking for some guidance because they were hoping for some more direction, and we tried to provide that. But I think it might be a good opportunity for both of us to work together and reconnect with the BRC. They're a great help, and they're really motivated to get going. So perhaps tomorrow we can both reach out together to BRC and get some more feedback from them.
Sure.
Hi, Jacqueline. How are you? It's Mark Parrish. Yeah, last year we rolled it out because of the pandemic and because everything was so much in a lockdown. And true to everybody's points that spoke before me with not being perfect, but it was successful to a certain extent. A lot of people enjoyed it. We had a lot of people coming from other municipalities because it gave them a sense of freedom per se for a couple hours a night. There were times that it was really busy and there were times that it was a little bit slower. And so when we started to bring this up a couple months ago, when a consultant, came up, I did not receive this. I'd like to get this because you just scrolled through it and I couldn't really catch up that much when I was looking at it. So I'd like to see this because it can be a considerable amount of money, it looks like, to do with what you feel is the right way. But it seems like you would be coming in and you would be taking over the whole event, bringing in golf carts, bringing in generators, bringing in all this other stuff. And, going back to last year where some of the shop owners were not always thrilled, it was tough because you couldn't really be open a lot and they didn't have the staff because no one wanted to work. And it was, again, it was costing them money to stay open and they weren't sure about how it was going to work out. And I understand that as a business owner. But coming into this year, we have a different scenario possibly with, 100% being May 19th. The reality of, like I had spoken to a couple months ago, the board, being able to do a little bit more things, be able to create an atmosphere that is inviting, is elegant, and all these other things. But the cost, Trustee Aresta made a good point with the overtime. It is expensive to do this. And then when we tack on fees like this, what does our true cost come to? That's something that we have to look at. And that's a really important thing because we want to make everybody have an opportunity to do this stuff, but we also got to watch our, fiscal responsibility. Some of the things that Trustee McLaughlin mentioned earlier are good points. We did try and close down one street one time. We tried to do a half a street. It's a little bit confusing. That's why the whole point of trying to get dates in advance is very important because it allows a consultant, or if we choose to go a different direction without having a consultant, and using the BRC and some other people around the area to really get on the same page. And I just really need to try and understand the proposal a little bit more. So Miranda, if you could send that to me, I'd appreciate it.
I've already emailed it to all board members.
Thank you so much. And it's really important that we do get this stuff so we can come to a meeting and be able to have a really constructive conversation rather than trying to catch up. So Jacqueline, tell me about some of the events you do. Do you do some out on the East End already?
We have done events in the East End. All of us are physically based here in New York City. Another one of our partners who's not visual, Miranda, if you can have him come on, is Robert Holzmeyer. He actually lives in Sag Harbor, has a home in Sag Harbor.
Would you call him in, please?
Thank you. And Michael has done other events out we've all worked out in the East End, but we're physically based here in New York City. And we've done other events in the New York City area, as well as throughout New York State and out. that have involved street fair type festivals and working with the city and working, whether it be your city or others. Rob has done other events in Bridgehampton. So we're accustomed to the type of event that you're looking to do and all the logistics that go into it. And again, that proposal that we sent was really just a list of starting the conversation of what, again, the event would entail and giving some broad stroke finances to that. Rob, is there anything else you want to add in reference to the type of events that we have done in reference to this with Michael?
I'm,
Can you hear me now?
yes,
Yeah.
sir. I sent you a link to start your camera.
We hear you though.
Mr. Helsmeyer, you have the floor. Are you gone?
I don't know, and he hasn't.
He started to talk.
Am I here?
Left.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apologize for the technical difficulties. Yeah, we're obviously very familiar with your event from this past season, and obviously the news evolves, and especially with today's announcement from the CDC, the validity of the event is obviously up in the air. The event was really needed last year when things were tight. This year things are changing, and by another month from now, it could be even more back to normal. So the validity of the event and the format of the event, that all needs to be discussed. Obviously, projecting those dates is very important for your constituents and your businesses and your village members to plan in advance for that. Our role is to help and assist in that. We've done many events in many different versions similar to this, and our role is to help you qualify the objectives for your event, what your constituents are requiring. If you have elderly people who are having trouble navigating to the event from parking, that's an objective we need to solve. So identifying all those objectives and then creating an event that answers all those objectives and works towards all those objectives, that's the role that we play. Not just hiring golf carts and putting up tents. Our job is to be strategic and to work with you and to be an expert in how you deliver a live event that answers the objectives of what your community needs.
Thank you. That was good information right there. And there was an email thread started probably about a month and a half ago. I think it was Michael. Was Michael the other?
Michael Sabelli, yes, he's with us.
Yeah, and we were, on that same, and it got to a couple points where it just it stopped. So the last thing I remember is they were talking about maps, looking for maps of downtown and stuff like that. So I think it's something that this board does need to think about. Getting a better conversation. I'd like to look over this a little bit more, but yeah, again, at the end of the day, Rob and Jacqueline, you said it well. You want to bring in an event that is going to stand out and also be safe. And with the feedback we'll get from some residents about being able to make it to some of the areas of the village if it is closed down is extremely important, because it's one of the things we struggled with last year. Again, it was our first time. We just threw it down there because we just decided to do something different, and it was successful. Now let's hone it in a bit, and let's really see if we can make it spectacular, based on what the governor is going to allow, because that's always important, but it looks like it's getting a lot better. So I thank you for that. I'll look over the presentation, and I do have Michael's email, and so I can always would love to just be able to chat with him also. So I'll reach out to him.
Sure, and we're on a group email with Miranda, with myself, Robert, and Michael. And just to further Robert's point, the reasons, the objectives of why you did the event last year when we were shut down in the height of the pandemic is very different now, again, as Rob said on today's news, but you still might want to do this event, but with a different objective, because now you are reopened and bring everyone back to the streets. So there could be a different focus and a different type of element of the event, because we'll be allowed to do different things that you were allowed to do last year. And honestly, you're able to do more things now than you were able to when we sent this information 2 weeks ago. So that's something to keep in mind as you move forward with this. And that's something where we can help with those logistics and ascertaining that.
Yeah, you were absolutely right, because that's one of the things we did talk about, is about saying, what else can we do and how can we grow this? So I think that is a key to have the objectives, and I appreciate that point.
Yeah, create a legacy event, and now's the time. This is a very interesting time in our history in general, but also with us that do event activations, to take an opportunity to create a legacy event, and what it continues on with what the new look of live event experiences are going to be like.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the articulating it. And Rob, thank you as well. I think this is a great opportunity for the village to really take this act and really take this to a different way of thinking about it, and also work with really high-end professionals who are also, thank you for your proposal, because we know how much you typically charge. So we know this is not one of your money-making activities. So we really appreciate the proposal you gave us. And thank you, I guess, for your service to us for doing that. And it could give us a great opportunity to really evaluate with a team of professionals who do this for a living, and make this event a really powerful and great event for all, and make it extremely inclusive. And if it goes well, we can keep on doing it. And if it doesn't go well, then we don't have to continue. But we're hoping and optimistic that if we are able to give ample time, do this the first half of June with your team, that will be fantastic. And again, we will, if you need anything else, or trustees, if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to them. But I think this is a great opportunity for us. And
Mayor, could I just add one more point? When you think about the objectives that you want for this event, one of the things we as consultants will always tell you to do is to forget about the event that you did last year. Think about the objectives that you want as a village and as a community, and then we'll see what type of an event can solve those objectives. It may not be the event that you did last year. It may be something like it, but it may be something completely different as well. So don't try to identify your objectives based on last year's event. Identify your objectives based on the future of your village and what you want to create for your village. And then we'll see if this street event is the right solution. It may not be. So I'm just encouraging you to, when you think about your objectives, don't be anchored to last year's event.
Well said.
Right. Thank you. So I'm encouraging our board to be able to work with our group here. We've got a resolution at the end of our meeting tonight, and all this will do is give us an opportunity to work creatively and collaboratively with Cerbeli Creative, and also start fresh. Not as we just said, not to think about last year's event, but starting fresh today, think about what we can do in the future to make our village more vibrant and better. And I think this is an excellent opportunity they're giving us, an excellent price, and really not a lot to ask. And I also would let us know that our fiscal year ends in a few weeks, and there is money in the trustees special projects budget line item. And if we don't use it, it will obviously get transferred into another line item, but it is there, it is available for us, and they are giving us a, call it a hometown local discount. So thank you to everybody tonight, and for helping us push this along.
Mr. Mayor, can I actually ask one question to either Charlene or Ken with regards to that? Is with something like this, do we need to do an RFP to go out, or are we okay with how things have been done? That it's just until we got to the fee structure and all of that recently did I think about having to do that. Are we okay, or did we need to go out and open it up to anyone else that may wish to do this?
Well, actually, Miranda, I don't
believe with me if you'd like them, Charlene.
Okay, I did, when Miranda brought this to me earlier this week, I had asked her, I mean, the amount is, first of all, it's for professional services. And according to the state law, there is no requirement. It's a recommended practice to get other quotes or get the most competitive price for professional services. So what I suggested was that Miranda go and find other event planning companies and reach out to them and find out if they would be interested in giving us a quote or a proposal for the similar services. So I don't believe Miranda, as of yesterday, I didn't think anyone had gotten back to you, or.
Yeah, I had one response, but then I requested a proposal and I stopped getting responses after that. But we spoke with the two separate firms. I'd be happy to provide that information for the board as well, if you would like it.
So it's a much more informal process because it's an RFP. Sometimes if we're looking at a very specific specified type of service, for example, our auditors or the police study that was done, we were looking for persons who had a specific type of background and experience. Then we would actually do a formal RFP to hone in on that type of this is a more
right. But the fee is the 7,500 for the consulting group, but the event fees are going to be the 125 that she was talking about. So I mean that jumps the does that trigger anything if we're doing that? That's all. I mean, just again,
it was my understanding that what we were going to award was a $7,500 contract this evening.
That's this evening, but then you've got the event fees that she was talking about on top of that. Does that tie in? I'm that's why it's for you, Charlene, and you, Ken, to just for clarification. That's all.
I was under the impression that the $7,500 was an all-inclusive for the 3 events. Is that correct, Jacqueline?
Well, that would be our fee. That's what was requested of us. And as you'll see when you look at the document, that we would honestly, and thank you, Mayor Warren, for understanding our profession. That fee was truly a wonderful rate that we gave you based on the relationship, what we want to create. But then when you say all-inclusive, there's all the other elements, the infrastructure of the actual event, whether it be, as you talked about, golf carts or having to print up maps or other staff that have to be on site. So that's our consulting professional fee, but then all those other elements, whether you pay direct, you contract with us, you might have someone that's going to donate a generator because they're in the village and they want to donate to the event. But that you'll see in the proposal, there's a list of all the other elements. That was a starting point of what you would do for an event. And with our professional experience, you're probably looking at a minimum of $125,000 based on those elements that have to go into the event.
So trustee, let me jump in here. Ken Gray. You're not approving or authorizing the expenses of $125,000 at this point. If the resolution as proposed goes forward, it's simply a $7,500 fee for this consulting company, which does not require it to go out to bid or an RFP based upon the $7,500 number. And as Charlene points out, it is really professional services. You can do that, but by approving the $7,500 proposal, you are not accepting or authorizing the additional monies that are included in what might happen, the $125,000 that's been talked about.
Okay, but if the proposal comes in from them, if we are paying direct to the vendors, would we need to then RFP those things for generators, for golf carts, or is that, and again, we're getting into minutia now, and I understand that, but I just want to, what we can do is we can take that part offline. I have no problem doing that. So I'll save my breath, save yours. We'll get into the minutia offline, and you can elaborate, but I understand tonight then is only the 7,500, knowing that there could be much higher fees coming on top of that.
And I believe the intention was that we were going to, most of the, obviously we're not going to have tents and liquor licenses and caterers or anything along those lines. The events that we're referring to is just basically a coordination of the effort, and most of the work that's done in the streets are provided in-house or in kind by the village staff and personnel.
If we were to contract and handle other elements that we would just need to rent, again, we talk about, like, let's say a generator, it's not donated. If you all put that out to bid and you decide to contract it directly and pay them direct, that's on you. Anything that you would want us to do through our entity would be we normally have a handling fee of plus 30% that we reduce to 25% for this. And then there will be additional staffing. So we're going to need to provide staff from our corporate entity to be there. And then you'd have to pay us for the staff to actually execute. I'm sure you're going to have some volunteers from your side as well. So those are the details that we need to work on once you decide that you want to proceed.
Thank you. We also have had a few businesses, local businesses, approach us and say they might be interested in sponsoring this as well, free of charge. So a lot of local businesses want to get involved. And so there's an opportunity there as well. So if we do move forward, which I would love to, I hope our board will agree to do that. We have a few people who have reached out to us that we may be able to turn to for some sponsorships as well.
And when they sponsor, if they're going to write a check, that's great. But if they're sponsoring in-kind services, then that all needs to be coordinated. At what time do we go to that restaurant for this? Or is it something with entertainment or an activation? So all those services that need to be coordinated in concert to have that event be the event that you want it to be.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's good. We could probably, if there's no additional comments from the board, we could probably move forward to our suggested resolutions, but I wanted to thank both you guys for your time tonight. I know it's getting pretty late, 7:51, so thank you for coming in front of our Board of Trustees.
Thank you for having us. Excited to see you out there.
All right, good night. All right, Charlene, I'll turn this over to you. We're now in our suggested resolutions section. There's quite a few tonight, so we'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution number 1, resolved that the claims for the warrant dated May 13th, 2021 totaling $274,646.87, warrant A17 general fund be audited and approved. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any?
Discussion?
Sure. Trustee.
Thank you. I just have a question regarding some of the charges to the village by a non-employee totaling in the tens of thousands of dollars that taxpayers are going to be liable for. These charges are requests for information by the non-employee that have been sanctioned, that have not been sanctioned by this board. As the mayor is so concerned with saving the taxpayers money, I was wondering if we could get an explanation of how these tens of thousands of dollars are justified expenditures for the village taxpayer that have been created by Dane Neller, who has so far in my findings had over 50 meetings and calls with numerous of our village attorneys. I'd like to open this discussion here in public in favor for the sake of transparency. What information has he gained from these meetings? Has he been able to act upon that information? And if so, under what auspices? He seems to be racking up bills that the taxpayer will have to cover for, and wondering, whose oversight there has been with this.
Charlene, would you like to provide Trustee Pilar with any guidance, or Ken?
I was presented with a letter from the mayor in October indicating that Mr. Neller was going to be assisting him in his office in various functions, and that if he needed some information or reports, it would be provided to him.
I understand, and in some of these meetings and calls took place before that October letter was actually sent out. Also, in that letter, it was stated that he has the right to enter Village Hall in connection with this assistance and may use my office and other offices if needed. So again, I would just like to ask, in the close to 50 conferences or telephone calls with our attorneys, ranging from a multitude of subjects, some of them that don't even have subjects, where and how does this occur? And again, that letter then sent by the mayor, to the village administrator, the board was never informed of any of this. So, the board is approving payments, in the past and in the future, that it certainly hasn't authorized some things to be done. And so I again, I just question the governance of this, and I am not under the aware of anything that he was asked to do or look into with regards to ZBA issues, with regards to transitioning or reorg agendas, or any of that. So I just really question where we are here, and who has oversight, and who is, who does he report to in his findings, and then what happens with that information.
But Ken, I have a couple of responses, then I'll let you. And I, Trustee Blair, I appreciate you bringing this up, and it's really great question to ask. And as you remember, I know we had a debate in 2019, but when we were both running for office, and one of the things that I brought up was that we have a very talented village, and we have people who want to volunteer their time for the village, just like Cerbelli Creative came on. And they're giving us, like I called it, a hometown discount, where they're giving us a really favorable rate. There's a lot of people that want to help the village. And a lot of people I've met along the way that I've connected with that want to get involved. We created a budget and finance committee, which this gentleman is on, and he has volunteered his valuable time to the village for free, just like we're volunteering our time, but we get paid for it. So we really wanted to engage people. And we have a very small infrastructure. As you know, our clerk's office is run on a skeleton crew. One of the things I talked to our village administrator, clerk, and treasurer about is how lean we are in the clerk's office. And ultimately, we are really short-staffed here. If you go to the town and look at Supervisor Schneiderman, he's got a deputy supervisor. They have legislative aides. Each trustee, two trustees have a legislative aide. So they have a really robust town hall. Whereas here in the village, we have a very lean village hall. And one way we can get around that by actually saving the taxpayer money by not hiring employees who then also have pension contributions and long-term liabilities is by engaging really smart and talented volunteers. And this gentleman, Dane Neller, who you actually know him personally, I think you actually knew him before I knew him. I met him along the way. He said, I'd like to volunteer his time. And I said, great, you are a successful business owner. You're a successful lawyer. You're exactly who we need in order to help us, whether it comes to contract negotiation, whether it help us improving village operations, whether it help us succeed as a village. We want more volunteers. So anyone who's listening, please volunteer and help. I wanted to thank Len Zananti, former Chief Financial Officer of the New York Philharmonic, and CUNY, City College of New York, is volunteering his time. He's also been helping. This is great. We have the best and talented people. We have a village of industry leaders. Even on our police task force we created, we had some of the most successful people in the country in their industries working on this. Craig Goldberg worked for the FBI, successful. Bob Barron, one of the best lawyers in the country, working for free. Tom Kempner, you know his hedge fund. I mean, he's running one of the most successful hedge funds in the country, and he is working for free. Georgette, Dr. Greer Key, one of the most important archaeologists and historians on Long Island, working for free. And Elena William, our neighbor at Shinnecock Nation, working for free. So we are engaging people through our office to work for free, which actually saves us taxpayer money. So yes, you will see certain invoices where people are on the call or they are making calls, working hand in hand with us. And that is exactly what we want. And we hopefully will keep on doing this because this is going to help our village improve. And again, it's going to save us money. So thank you for those questions.
Mr. Mayor, we are the elected officials. We are the ones that are governing. So my question is where is the oversight that is occurring with what is happening? Because I don't see any right now. We've got a non-employee running up bills within this village that taxpayers are responsible for, and we are approving, which we don't know what is going on with. That would be like if I couldn't find someone to mow my lawn, and I asked little Johnny in the Parks Department to come by with the village lawnmower and mow my lawn. again, who authorizes that? Who is watching over it? And how can this happen? So again, I mean, I'm just asking on about the oversight and who is controlling, tens of thousands of dollars that have been spent already. And so I just want to make sure that the board, that are the elected officials of this village by the people, by our residents, that this board understands what is happening and where that information and stuff is going with. That's what I think it really boils down to. I don't know if anyone else has ideas or thoughts on this.
I do have one quick statement, if I may, on this topic. I do understand the sentiment, Mr. Mayor, about having volunteers. I'm actually would be in favor of that. However, I do think that these people should be resolutioned appropriately. If they want to volunteer to take $1 a year for their time, that's wonderful. But they should be resolutioned, and we should understand what their jurisdictions are and who they are advising. I understand entirely your position of needing help, of wanting people to advise you in the proper way. I don't begrudge you. However, I do think that people should be resolutioned, and we should know as the trustees who is involved. I don't personally, I don't think it's right that we have lay people negotiating contracts on our behalf. I actually reached out to former council on this topic, and they told me that there was no, they did not give this individual or individuals permission to negotiate in these. Maybe you did. However, we should be notified of that. And I think I get it. You want help. You want to see people give their time. However, they should be appropriately resolutioned and not done by a executive order. Listen, I admire the help given by the Budget and Finance Committee and other volunteers, ARB, ZBA, Planning Commission, Planning Board. It's all very valid and very honorable positions these people take to volunteer their time. However, just like the ARB and ZBA and Planning Board, they should be resolutioned as to what positions they are advising us on. And if they take a zero salary, that's their business. But if we should know what they're doing and when they're doing it. I have no problem with people volunteering their time, but it should be resolutioned appropriately.
I will just
I'll
say
defer this.
a couple quick things.
Trustee Parrish, is it okay if I could just respond? And I also just want to refer this to Ken, and then I will pass this to you. I appreciate it. Number one, a few things. Ken, could you just advise us as to the process of what it requires a resolution and what does not? Because in my opinion, so basically the mayor, as everyone knows, is the executive, but I am subject to the direction and control of the trustees. So as we saw with Cerbelli Creative, there's a lot of, there's significant controls in place. And I hope, I wish, sometimes, I was given a little more leeway to do the job. Again, part of my platform is to engage and leverage the talented volunteers that we have. And this is also public information. Everything is foilable. We did this intentionally so that it would be foilable. No one is, if you're suggesting that this is being hidden, it's clearly not being hidden. This is public information. It's right here for us to see at our meeting. But so I don't think that is fair to make those suggestions. I do know that everyone was aware of this for quite some time. I know, Andrew had met with this individual, Joe, same thing many times. And so you're also welcome to bring this up. I made a mistake at a public board meeting by bringing something up that maybe should have been done privately. I was, of course, upset about a situation, and I wish if I can go back in time, I would do it privately. And I think the same really also applies here. If this is something that you really feel strongly about, everyone is welcome to bring this up to me because we are following all guidelines, and I think, as Ken's about to tell us, a resolution likely is not needed. for this. Now, if we were to pay anyone $1, then a resolution would be needed because the trustees do control the budget and the purse strings. But working with volunteers is not precluded. And also, we, again, going back to our platform, is we want to engage talented volunteers.
Then,
And this
Mr.
is how
Mayor,
we're going to make our village better.
Could you, Mr. Mayor, explain the various matters that is in that letter? I mean, is there a list of various matters that you asked this individual to work on and gave him permission to do for you? Or is it a blanket various matters that he feels that he can work on and call attorneys over 50 or meet with their attorneys in person over 50 times? And this is exactly, unfortunately, I mean, I agree. I would have liked to have seen that other matter handled in private. This is public taxpayers' money in the tens of thousands. This is the perfect forum for trying to figure out what is happening with the spending of village taxpayer dollars that is being expensed by a non-employee.
This was part of our negotiation. Joe actually agreed. He was, for example, helping with our police negotiations as someone who's a really strong business person. And Joe actually agreed and was working hand in hand. And this is something that we would have done. Now, the goal was to save taxpayer money, which we still can do. But having someone who is assisting me with my approval and authority is perfectly normal. And for that matter, this is exactly, again, to reiterate, it's essential for our village to get help from our residents and use the talent and industry leaders that we have. I can reiterate this, but I want this help. We need this help. As I said, we have a skeleton clerk's office. I'm a part-time mayor, but I'm working 80 hours a week, and we need the help. But again, I don't appreciate being trapped in a public meeting for something that is actually perfectly fine and also essential for our businesses to improve. And also to, again, I ran on this platform. This is part of our platform, engaging village residents who are talented and industry leaders to help us. And so that is my position on this. And we do disagree on a lot. In fact, Trustee Plaro, you and I rarely disagree. Now, I have given you my commitment, rarely agree, but I give you my commitment to work closely with you. You're welcome to reach out to me. I will work around your schedule. I will help you in any way. Anything you want to accomplish, I will help you with. I am completely open to you. And I know we don't agree. We also don't agree on this issue. And if you need anything from me or want to know anything, feel free to ask. And you can do it in a public meeting. You could do it privately. I am yours. I work for you as a resident, and as a trustee, I also work for you. And so ultimately, I'm subject to your direction and control. So I am here to help, and you tell me what you need.
As a mayor, I would love the communication that you have with other individuals, volunteers in this village. I'd love to have that communication with your board members. Mr. Mayor, you have not called me since the last election. I heard from Eric Ruttenberg, another individual who asked me point blank why I disliked you, although he used a much more harsher term. And I said, I really don't dislike the mayor. I wish the communication were better. And he said, don't worry, we'll work on that. Again, that has not improved. I don't think we disagree on a lot of things. There are very few things. Everything in the environment we agree on, we vote on in the same way. All I am questioning is keeping your board informed on the people that are running around. There are a few resolutions later on, again, that I'm going to ask similar questions, about, as you said, you need help. Well, who is that help coming from? Let's name the names. What are they doing? What is that information going towards? The board should be involved, and the board should understand that, whether it's a volunteer or a paid or anything, the board should be involved and kept in the thing. You also said we're very understaffed. Since day one of getting into office, one of the things I asked to do is to look for a let's look at the process of Village Hall. Let's look and see where we need things. Let's not be willy-nilly about our hires. Let's scope out, let's reorg things so that if we need more people, we can add them in the departments that are necessary. Charlene has started that work. She's done some good work. I'd love to see it kind of continued and followed up so that we really can have a very robust Village Hall that can help our residents, that we can still have volunteers from, but that we understand what those volunteers are working for and towards.
If I may interject about the communication.
Deputy Mayor, I actually, sorry to
Go
interrupt.
ahead.
I think
All
actually
right.
now, feel it might be a good time to just keep on going with the meeting. I think we want to turn this back to our meeting. Trustee Polaro made some excellent points, and Trustee McLaughlin and I are going to reach out to the BRC tomorrow. We're going to work together. And then Trustee Polaro, let's meet tomorrow. You know what, as I say, no better time than the present. So let's get together. You name the time, we'll get together and we can go over any of these questions that you might have. Right now we're on the public meeting, so we should get back to the public's business, and you and I will get together tomorrow, and we'll have a great conversation, and we'll get going.
Mr. Mayor, just one last comment, if I may, and I may want to run. I just want the public to know you did address me in my knowledge. This was brought to me when I was first elected, and I was not aware of the parameters in which this individual was going to act. I was naive, and I did not know what the legality of it was. And again, I reached out to former council and to various people, and obviously there is no legal standing for lay people to enter into contractual negotiations with other employees. Now, I have no problem if someone wants to volunteer the time to help us with that. That's fine. However, they should be resolutions to that effect.
Okay. Ken, is there anything you want to add, or you think we should move on?
No, you did tell me I could have the floor because you wanted to make a comment earlier. You said Trustee Parrish will give it to you this one.
Okay, it'd be great to move on.
No, we will, but I just wanted to share because this is something that it's sort of like I'm a bit shocked. Smart minds, Mayor, you brought that up a lot, and you've had some smart minds, and it has nothing to do with smart minds. I don't know if the question was really answered, to be honest with you. You do have a lot of leeway. But the thing is, and I remember sitting down with Charlene when she first got in, and we talked about the role of elected officials, especially when it comes to council. And she made it clear to me that, look, you know, elected officials and elected officials are entitled to communication, and that some department heads are, but she preferred the department heads to go through her. So this is, you know, a little bit puzzling me that the access was there. I mean, and you talk about the other people in the group that have helped out and did tremendous jobs, so they all have access too. I just don't know that you answered the question to the public, to Trustee Polaro. We sort of got off some tangents, but you know, the thing is, it's something that is, I mean, 50 calls or whatever it was, and it's just something that I'm surprised that we didn't know that you wanted someone to help you out with this stuff, and came to us and said, hey, look, this is who I'd like. We'll have to put that down. Every time something comes on, we'll just get board approval, and then they can do their thing. I think that's what the reality is here. It's like, where did this come from? And a letter was sent that, again, we didn't know. And so this is just trying to raise that point. The question, I don't know if it was really answered, but I'm glad that it came up, because it is something that if you and Trustee Polaro talk about and you can figure it out, that would be good. And that's what I wanted to say.
We're also the elected officials that are here to help you, Mr. Mayor. So again, while we can reach out to you, you have every right to reach out to us and bring us into the fold and allow us to work with you on these issues that you need help. Happy to do it.
Okay, so now I'm going to say something.
All right.
First of all, as far as communication is concerned, every time we have a meeting, it just behooves me that you don't know about things that you on resolutions that we get 24 hours before, 48 hours before, where I don't know why I seem to know about these things, because I reach out and I find out. Now, and since I became a trustee, neither Mark or Andrew, I reached out to you a few times. I never hear from any of you. So I have a little problem communicate with the communication here with the two of you. And I feel really taken back that you're bringing a political campaign here to a trustee meeting, because that's what this is all about. So that's all I have to say. And I think you need to improve your communication skills, Andrew.
Trustee Aresta, I do know that we sat on a interview together, and we also talked about Moses Park.
Yes, because I invited you to that meeting. I never get a phone call from either one of you to discuss anything. So let's not talk about
No. I want.
So I think the mayor's right. We should move on.
Okay.
It should not be about.
All right. Thank you, everybody. All right. Appreciate your comments, Deputy Mayor, and I appreciate Mark and Joe and Andrew. I appreciate all your comments, and I would love to get back to our public meeting. We are open to providing everything for you, anything you would like, but let's get back to our meeting and let's vote on these resolutions and let's get going. We have a lot of work to do. Tomorrow is another day. We have more work to do tomorrow. We're all very passionate about our jobs, so let's get it done. So we're going to go and get back to our resolutions. And thank you, everybody, for all your comments.
Okay, so we're back to resolution 1. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 2, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the local law number 3, amending Village Code Section 116-23, special conditions and safeguards for certain uses and residence district to include the permitted use of food pantry. Is there a motion?
Motion.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 3, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the Stony Brook Southampton Hospital to hold its 2021 Hamptons Marathon Half Marathon Capstone event on Saturday, October 2nd, 2021, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. in accordance with New York State guidelines. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 4, resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the Southampton Village Ocean Preparedness SVOP Program Junior Lifeguard Training to be held at Cooper's Beach on Saturday mornings from July 10th to August 7th, and approves the funding in the amount of $7,000 from Trustees Special Projects to be transferred to the Cooper's Beach budget for payment. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
A second?
Second.
Trustee.
The only discussion item I have here is Trustee Parrish. I just wanted to thank you for this resolution. Great job. And I recently joined Ocean Rescue as well, separate, but I'm getting in the water. So so it's cold, but anyway, thank you for this resolution, and we really appreciate it.
And Trustee Parrish, we did meet with Matt Weeks today, and it's a go. Everything's ready to go. So we're going to be setting up the program with him, and everybody's on board.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the comments and support for this. I think it's a great way to start a program that I think is going to be successful in the future. And please, trustees, anything that you think that might be an improvement, because I did send it out to you guys over a week ago, please just reach out, because this is it's going to be a learning experience, and the more the merrier. Thank you.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 5, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the Old Town Bioswales $189,795 to be expended from Trustees Special Projects Fund A 1010-433 and will be reimbursed and made whole with the grant proceeds when received. This is a 100% grant that we have. We just need a funding source to start the project. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 6, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the hiring of 2021 seasonal police staff, part-time police officers at $26 an hour, Valen Gates and Grace Nunberg, part-time court officer, $26 an hour, George T. Ronan, part-time traffic control specialist, $16 an hour, George Brown, Neki Davis, Devin Holtzman, Robert Morales, Joseph Riccardi, Philip Riolalo, Sarah Spanberg, George Goretes, Adina Lidzima, Kyle Kozenchik, and Sebastian Murr. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yes.
Are these all of the officers and TCOs or TCSs, I guess, that we'll be hiring? Or are there more, or is this just a partial list?
This is right. This is the list as of now to get people on board. I'm working on, I did receive an addition today. Sebastian Murr was an addition. There'll probably be more coming from Lieutenant Hertow. And I'm working on some civil service issues that we're having with some of the other hires.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Will you be giving the board an update on that issue with the civil service? Because I know that's been a point of contention. I spoke with you today about that. So if we can have that addressed by the next meeting, maybe, or
yes,
it would be great. Thanks.
So all in favor?
Oh, my other thing, only thing I wanted to say, Charlene, is I just was a few returning TCOs and also part-time officers, and wanted to give a quick shout out. Valen Gates is coming back, great guy, and wanted to thank him for his service. And then also wanted to recognize Nakai Davis, one of our TCOs, did an excellent job last summer, one of our best TCOs we had, and just wanted to welcome him back and also thank him. So that's all I had to say.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 7, resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the Memorial Day ceremony on Monday, May 31st, 2021 at 11 a.m. at Agawam Park. Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 8, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves Nelson Pope and Voorhees to assist the village with the MS4 stormwater management audit being conducted by the Environmental Protection Agency in the amount of $30,000 to be paid from Trustee Special Projects Fund. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 9, resolved that the Board of Trustees ratifies the approval and for the village administrator to execute a stipulation of settlement with employee number 4144 effective April 9th, 2021. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 10, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the following staff rates for Cooper's Beach effective May 14th, 2021. I apologize for the fact that it was not included in the revised agenda when it was posted, as Matt Weeks was in this afternoon helping us finalize and was waiting on to hear back from some folks. So I did circulate that to the board. I'm happy to share my screen so you can see the salary schedule that we are proposing, that he is proposing and asking to be approved. These are actually provided for, and we did do a calculation of these proposed rates and did a calculation to see if we'd have, when we prepared the budget, so the funds are budgeted, and we'll be happy to announce that we are going to have a small increase for the first time in quite a few years for some of the staff at Cooper's. So we're trying to get our seasonal beach staff to be a bit more in line with our competitors, which are the other municipalities. And in addition to that, I was made aware by Vince Toomey's office that we are not, because they are seasonal, they are not required to be paid the minimum wage, but we are giving them a small increase, and we're hoping to do that, especially for the returning. You'll see some of these folks have been with us for 34. One of our lifeguards has been with us for 34 years. So I just wanted to let everybody see in full disclosure, these are the salaries that our beach folk are making this summer.
Does he qualify for retirement then?
Only if they are, part-time and seasonal employees have the option of joining retirement. So some of them are school teachers, and they work as lifeguards in the summer, so they might be part of the retirement system, so.
Mr. Mayor, I remember that was the first thing that you and I looked at after we were elected, is that some of our seasonal weren't making minimum wage. And we were hoping to get it up there very early on, and then COVID hit for last year. So I mean, yeah, if we can, it's great that we're working towards that. So.
And we did include a small increase for Matt Weeks as well. He's paid on a salary basis. He is an amazing asset for us and helps. I cannot believe the amount of work that he does behind the scenes in coordinating this. And Kathy Sweeney, my deputy clerk, she's our beach ops in-house. The stuff that she does is amazing. She handles all of the Department of Health permits applications, which are, I mean, I've seen a few tax returns in my day, and that application was pretty voluminous. And it's a great opportunity to just thank the folks that work really hard to make our beach a beautiful beach.
Can you blow that up a little more, Charlene, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Can you see it now, trustee? Okay.
Perfect.
Is that you working at the beach this summer, Andrew? I see Andrew Ferraro on there.
No, that's
if you look at the middle initial, it's T. It's my 17-year-old son who is in his second year working there for the village.
Oh, your son. Okay.
I heard you're a pretty good lifeguard though, Andrew.
I was a lifeguard many years ago.
All right, very good. Well, thanks for the help on this, getting some of these wages up. It's a good thing. There's some inflation out there, and it's good for our working employees to really get paid what they deserve. So thanks for the help on that one.
Okay, so I'm going to ask for a motion.
Motion.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the attached budget modification number 300 to cover overages in various lines. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? For resolution number 12, resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the following vehicles, equipment to be deemed surplus at the recommendation of the DPW of superintendent and sold at an online auction. 1987 Ford F600 bucket truck from building and maintenance, 2008 Ford F250 pickup truck, highway department, 2011 Chevy Tahoe from the fire department, 1999 giant leaf vac machine from the highway department, a garage storage shelter frame from Central Garage, and tires and equipment. This is a recommended list that came from Kenny Zay, our head mechanic at the garage. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 13, whereas the Board of Trustees approved the mid-year budget amendment at the December 2020 Board of Trustees meeting, reducing projected revenues and appropriations that have been impacted by COVID-19. And in recent months, building permit revenue has rebounded, and now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approves restoring the funds to the adopted budget of $975,000, an appropriation that is in the annual budget transfer to capital reserves as follows: an increase to the revenue of $450,000, and an increase to appropriations of $450,000 for the transfer to capital reserve. As we come into our capital budget, we'll be circulating capital budget by the end of this week. I was hoping to get it out earlier, but had to take some personal time last week. So we're hoping the work session for May 25th is the working session. It's going to be basically, a review of the capital budget and the items that will be circulating to the board probably by tomorrow or Monday. And so because the revenue in the building department had rebounded, we thought, I thought it would be appropriate to restore the funds to the transfer to capital. We do have an annual allocation that we budget for. We have one additionally coming up in the ensuing budget year. And this is how we pay for our capital expenditures. So I was going to restore that funding so that we would have the $975,000 allocation for capital expenditures this year. So do we have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 14, whereas the Southampton Village fiscal year ending 5/31/2020 financial statements reflected a within-year operating surplus in the amount of $3.7 million. And whereas Mayor Warren has suggested that this one-time operating surplus be transferred to the village capital reserve and earmarked for village water quality projects, which will be determined and authorized by the Board of Trustees. Now be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the following budget amendment: appropriation of unreserved surplus in the amount of $3.7 million and transfer to capital reserve for water quality projects in the amount of $3.7 million. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Quick question. 3.7 million. Charlene, where's that coming from again?
That was our within-year operating surplus when the auditors presented our financial statements for 5/31/20. We had our revenues had exceeded budgeted amount in the amount of $2 million, and our expenditures were below budget in the amount of 1.7. And the mayor had suggested that we take, because our unassigned surplus is over $7 million, which is well in excess of the 15% recommended unreserved surplus from the state comptroller's office, that rather than increase it to the 10 million, that we leave it at 7 million, which is over 20%, and then take the 3.7 and reserve it for capital reserve for water quality projects.
I would like to make one amendment, if I may. I understand, we're all passionate about water quality. I'm entirely in favor of creating a budget line for this topic. However, we just passed 2 resolutions for water quality, so shouldn't those 2 resolutions line items, it came out as trustee special project, shouldn't we table those and then actually use this money for that? And also, I'd like to mention, I'd like to add a caveat to that resolution saying that any work done for water quality purposes, whether it be dredging, PRBs, and other things that we are wanting to work on, I would like to see a caveat plan there that we notify the town trustees because they do own the water bodies of the village. So I would hope that we can add to this resolution that we would notify all parties involved, either it be neighbors or and town trustees, when work is being done within the water body itself. I know again we just passed 2 resolutions this evening involving water quality. I'd like to see that those funds that we just allocated from our funding source to come from that funding source. I think that's very fair because those are both water quality issues. And again, I'm entirely in favor of this. I just need to see. I'd like to see again the amendment for the town trustees to be notified and to be a part of this process when it comes to the water bodies. Is that?
It's a good point, Joe. Any other ideas about that from any of the other board members? Mr. Mayor, it says suggested. So do you have? I know one of the things you talked about was a sewer map and plan. There were some of the things you mentioned a couple meetings ago. Are you going to have these in like a line item type of thing where they're going to be looked at? I know the one thing I did learn from this year's budget process is that they were very great about having these line items down so you could actually see where it's going. And will that be part of this $3.7 million? We say this is here and this is there, because it was a very good thing with this year's budget, knowing that where each dollar and cents went.
Well, if I might, trustee Parish, this is going to be creating a reserve that will be used by the board at the board's discretion, and the board would have to approve the allocations from the reserve like they do with the other reserves. So like when the fire department comes on and says they want to buy a fire truck, they have money in their reserve, and if they want to allocate it out, they need a board approval to do that. And you, as the board, get to see the resolution that says this is being transferred for this truck for the chief of the fire department in the amount of this from the fire reserve. So that is how the money will be spent. So Ken, you can jump in anytime. A capital reserve is set up by the board, and it can only be spent by authorization of the board.
I completely agree with you, Charlene. That is correct. This is simply transferring money in that in the future, this board will have to authorize its expenditure.
Perfect. That's what I missed.
And again, if we can have a process, can we notify the town trustees, because if we are going to do things for PRBs, and I know the mayor you mentioned involving a dredging study with the Conservancy and with the, if we're going to be using this money for that, I just want us to have, in the sake of transparency, to have that dialogue with them, so we're not, on the hook for something they should be contributing for as well. So I realize we need to work on issues with wastewater, and that's something that we're all very motivated towards. However, I do want to make sure that we are not overstepping our authority when it comes to the water bodies, and we are being a very good neighbor and a very good steward, and involving the Conservancy, the of course the Conservancy, but for sure the town trustees who are owners of that lake bottom and of all the other water bodies within the village.
Trustee McLaughlin, if I may, I understand what your concern is, and it's a valid concern. This resolution is simply a transfer of funds. I think what you're speaking of might be more particular to any individual expenditure of funds in the future. So we're just simply transferring funds from our account to another one of our accounts. And what the issue that you raise and bring up, extremely valid, but it's probably more appropriate when we get down to the point of actually expending the money.
Okay. And Charlene, could we then go back and maybe allocate the money that we just allocated for trustees of social projects to utilize the 3.7 for that? Because I think it's water quality, especially with the matching grant. I think the 3.7 would be a great first expenditure for that. So is that possible that we can table that and then use this money for that at the next meeting, or is it, unless there's a deadline?
Well, I believe the grant it's a 100% grant, so we're just fronting the money from the trustees special project. So the bioswale project is 100% funded by grant.
I wasn't sure whether it was matching or whether it was. I wasn't sure exactly. Okay. Great.
We actually got, Charlene, two different grants, one from Suffolk County and from the CPF. So thank you to Gary Gillespie. Thank you to Jen Messiano. We actually got two grants to secure the grant funding for the bioswale, $189,795, not a dollar of taxpayer funds.
And in addition to that, one of the things to keep in mind, capital reserves under general municipal law are created by a board through a resolution. And whatever's created by the board can be uncreated by the board. So say, for example, something happens down the road and we have to access this money for some other village purposes. If we have some type of an emergency or a disaster, the board has to just merely pass a resolution to use some of the reserves or to transfer them into the general fund. Correct, Ken?
Yes, because the answer to the question is that when you created it, it was subject to permissive referendum when you created the fund, not necessarily the transfer of the money into the fund. So yes, you are correct. You could always do away with a capital reserve fund that you no longer have a use for.
And I also, we should thank the people who prepared the budget for this surplus that we have at $3.7 million, which was the previous administration and board.
All right, thank you for that, Andrew. And just have three quick things. Wanted to address the town trustees. We have built an excellent relationship with the town trustees. I was swimming with Ann Welker last week. We are on the phone with Ed Warner about the plovers. We saw and spoke to Trustee Horowitz the other week as well. And we're going to miss Eric Schultz, who is not going to be running for re-election, but he did an excellent job both for the village and for the town. I thought he was an excellent town trustee. And one thing that I'm take a lot of pride in is that we did build good relationships with the town trustees. They were included when we developed the first ever harmful algae bloom plan on Long Island. They were in that room with us, to the town trustees. And so one thing that we should all say we did a good job on is improving the relationships with the trustees. And then, Joe, I just want to mention to you, you'd mentioned about the dredging study. The good news is that dredging study is actually already paid for, funded, and is executed, and is now going to the Department of Environmental Conservation for approval. So we may be looking at a dredging project in 2022. We have new technologies that actually dry out the sediments, which we could be using. We're working with Peter Campbell, who's liaising with the Clean Water Committee. And I know you're aware of that because you're on that committee. And so thank you for your work on that committee. So the dredging actually is potentially an option in 2022, which is be amazing. And then also we've got dredging for Old Town Pond because we've got RU engineers, which thank you to this board for funding the dredging study and the sediment study there. We could do dredging in Old Town Pond too. So we are making phenomenal progress. And then lastly, this resolution is something that I think we all should be proud of because we did, you had mentioned, you are correct, Trustee Plaro, this was a budget that we inherited, but we implemented good cost controls. I know some people gave me a hard time for not signing in every purchase order, but this is why we're looking at a $3.7 million surplus here. And we also want to thank Chris Talbot, running a great department, bringing in extra revenue in our building department. So we are looking at a $3.7 million cash surplus. Yes, we have some other liabilities to look at down the road, but right now we've got this in front of us. There's a golden opportunity. Wanted to thank Charlene, who's been on the sewer task force. We've got our RFPs done. Thank you, Joe McLaughlin, as well. And we are going this year to create a sewer district. And this money is going to be used all or in part for that sewer district, which is going to help our clean water. It's going to help our business district. I know Andrew and Mark, I know you guys are really gung-ho now about a sewer. Thank you. And we're well on our way. We are looking good. And I'm very proud of this. And I want to thank our board for this. So I guess we're ready to vote.
Are we ready to vote? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 15, resolved Derek Highsmith is hereby appointed to the position of Secretary to the Planning Board at a salary of $48,000 effective April 23rd, 2021. He was in a temporary position until Diane Greger retired, and now he's being appointed to her position on a permanent basis. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 16, resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the mayor to sign a contract with Green Energy Technologies to install electric vehicle charging stations in village parking lots as part of a revenue sharing agreement. All equipment and installation costs will be paid by GET. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
One question: Where are the locations of these stations? Because I know we did discuss this several months ago, and they did come to present. I just want to, if you can inform the public of where they're going to be. I don't know if that was
I can answer that question, Trustee McLaughlin. There would be a station by the Long Island Railroad where the new, not on their property, on our property where the Avis rented car is. There's new parking spots in there. That's going to be one charging station. The other one is going to be, I know there's a name of the street, but it's right where the restrooms are by Agawam Park. So there'd be some spaces dedicated there, and then in the village parking lot behind Southampton Arts Center, there'll be a station there as well.
Thank you.
It all has to do with where they could hook up the electricity and things like that with running, so it was planned out that way.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Do you know a date that they're going to be installed by any chance?
From what I understand, they're not going to make it for Memorial Day, but it will be here sometime in mid-June, definitely for the 4th of July, but they're not going to make it for Memorial Day.
Thank you very much. Good work.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 17, resolved that the Village of Southampton hereby authorizes the mayor or his designee to execute any and all documents pertaining to the 2021 Town of Southampton Community Preservation Fund Water Quality Improvement Program application to support estimated project costs associated with the design and construction of a constructed treatment wetland at Old Town Pond. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in
Discussion?
favor? Yes, discussion, trustee Polero.
I want to, don't get caught. Mr. Mayor, your designee?
That is, I had a feeling you were asking. Good question. That is standard in any resolution. Typically, a designee could be the village administrator. It could be the clerk. But this is pretty standard in most resolutions. But Ken, I'll let you take the rest of it.
Ken, you're muted.
Agent Ken.
Ken, you're muted.
No, I was muted. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not unusual to authorize a designee to authorize documents just in case the mayor is not immediately available. It's pro forma, either the village administrator or even the village attorney. In a number of villages that I represent, if we're selling property, for instance, the mayor may sign the deed, but they authorize the village attorney to authorize the transfer documents that get filed with the village clerk, the county clerk. So that's not an unusual request.
This language actually came from Jen Mezziano.
That's fine, but as long as it's village employee or all of that, that's just wanting to make sure that that designee comes from within a certain group. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, resolution number 18, resolved that the Village of Southampton hereby authorizes the mayor or his designee to execute any and all documents pertaining to the 2021 Town of Southampton Community Preservation Fund Water Quality Improvement Program application to support estimated project costs associated with the construction of a bioswale at 71 Nugent Street. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 19, resolved that the Village of Southampton hereby authorizes the mayor or his designee to execute any and all documents pertaining to the 2021 Town of Southampton Community Preservation Fund Water Quality Improvement Program application to support estimated project costs associated with the preparation of a mapping plan for the creation of a sewer system. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 20, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the Southampton Union Free School District, West Hampton Beach Union Free School District, Hampton Bays Union Free School District to host a military recognition ceremony to recognize 12 graduating seniors committed to enlisting in the armed services and serving our nation. The ceremony is planned to take place on Friday, May 21st, 2021 at 10 a.m. at Agawam Park. Rain date is planned for Thursday, May 27th, 2021. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 21, resolved that the Board of Trustees amend Board of Trustees resolution dated April 20th, 2021, number 9, to appoint Catherine Styler as a permanent full-time driver messenger at a salary of $57,720 $720 effective April 21st, 2021. Just as a note on this resolution, originally we were having Kat to be appointed as an office applications specialist with her, her background in technology. There is currently no list for that position. So Civil Service had recommended that I appoint her as a temporary 90-day employee while they were trying to, generate an exam list. They're still currently not giving civil service exams, only for specified titles, emergency titles. So we appointed her at the meeting in April, and then they, when we filed the documentation with Civil Service, they said, well, why did you appoint her as a 90-day temp? She should be a permanent appointee. So they've asked us to amend the resolution, and that's what we're doing here. So do we have a motion?
Motion.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 22, the Board of Trustees accepts the proposal from Cirabelli Consulting, $7,500 to plan and market the 2021 Southampton in the Streets program to be paid from trustees special projects. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 23, resolved the Board of Trustees approves Our Lady of the Hampton School to use Agawam Park on June 8th, 9th, and 10th, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. to hold field day for approximately 80 students. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 24, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the purchase of 2 speed monitoring trailers for the purpose of reducing speed on village streets in the amount of $23,119 each, totaling $46,238 from MPH Industries of New York State contract price from the Trustees Special Projects Fund. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
One question, early in discussion. Where are we going to be placing these trailers? I know we had a lot of residents reach out to us about speeding, and obviously it's a chronic issue. I just want to know where we're going to be placing these trailers, and also maybe this is a question for Gary, but what is the difference between? I want to know whether I'd like to know what the difference between the trailers versus the more permanent ones you see on Hampton Road, and there's 2 on Hill Street. So I'm curious to know if what the price difference is, because obviously the trailers do look a little, they are kind of not very, they're kind of ugly, but I do see the need for them, because I do see that people do speed, and we do need to control that, especially with summer emerging. So.
Well, actually, from what Gary had, I mean, we could probably patch Gary in if we needed to, but from the proposal that he had sent, this is a pretty complex trailer. It is not only mobile, but it also stores data. So if we were trying to collect data for traffic on certain roadways during certain times of the day, there is a computer element and a technology element that would actually give us the information we would need. So it's a little bit different from the permanent structures that we have.
And did you give a reason as to why 2? I mean, obviously 2 is better than 1, but is there a reason for 2, or just because?
I believe it's because they can be placed in each direction on a road and be moved around as needed.
Okay.
It's better there's kind of an element of surprise. Ones on Hampton Road, people know are there. So you don't know, we can move these around to different roads as needed. And also this would eliminate the need to do certain traffic studies that we pay for. So, which is another reason why he chose to have these particular units.
And do we know the lifespan of them? I mean, how long is it? 5 years, 10 years? How long do they usually last? What's the investment?
Well, I know we had a few of them in East Hampton, and I believe that, with proper maintenance, they could last at least 10 years.
Okay.
But the technology usually.
Right. That's
yeah.
I wasn't sure.
So Any other questions? All right, all in favor?
I
I,
Any opposed? That concludes the resolutions.
Thank you, Charlene. We now have comments from board members. So we'll move to that. There are no appointments, but just to give the board heads up, we're thinking about appointing Mike Lieberman to the chairperson of the Planning Commission, but the commission doesn't meet to the first Thursday in a month, so we can do it at the next board meeting without having a walk-on. So we'll move to comments from board members. Trustee Aresta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One other thing about those units, they also can do messaging. What we were just talking about, those monitors. So that's another added bonus with those. If you just wanted to put welcome to Southampton Village, but they also do messaging, which is something else I left out. I'd like to put everybody on notice that they will be doing paving around the hospital area Monday and Tuesday. So if you could avoid the area of Old Town Road and part of Meeting House Lane, that's by the hospital. There will be a path for the emergency room. Everything was coordinated with the hospital by Gary, and just so everybody knows, if you could avoid going down those streets Monday and Tuesday, would be appreciated. Another big thing this week was Wynwood Park. We were able to put the plantings in this week. Unfortunately, the fence wasn't ready, but part of the fence is going to be replaced there as well. But it's starting to look very, very nice. I'd like to thank the mayor for his help and support in implementing the contract for the EV charging stations, and I think that's all part of us going green here in Southampton Village. So I think that's great, something to look forward to. And for some reason, nobody seems to know that we signed to redo the master plan with BFJ Planning. I don't see anything anywhere about that. And but that's moving along. And if the residents out there don't know that, that resolution was passed a number of weeks back, and the contract is signed, and we're moving along with the master plan. So thank you, Mr. Mayor and the board. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you. I just want to make a few comments. First of all, thank you to Mike, Sheila, and excuse me, Mike, Sheila, and Dar Riley for their presentation earlier this evening. I know, as I said, I'm very eager to know what they have, what we can do to assist having a greener community and more environmentally friendly community. We did several. We as a board did several resolutions this evening to support those very efforts. And also, I wanted to say that I also wanted to mention the capital budget. Obviously, we are looking at long-term expenditures, and I want to mention to the board that one of those long-term expenditures should include our historical properties, mainly the historical museum, which is in desperate need of some funding. And I know Charlene and I met with Tom Edmonds this week, and hopefully he'll be making a presentation to the whole board on the 25th at our next meeting to discuss how the museum can become part of our long-term budget process, because we are living history in our village, and I want to make sure that the museum becomes maintained and part of that. So if we can, I look forward to hearing what Tom has to say, and hopefully we can accommodate him in that regard. That's all I have to say. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Trustee McLaughlin. Trustee Parrish.
Yes, a couple quick thanks. Thanks to Project Drawdown and everybody that was on tonight. That's exciting. Looking forward to having the village get into that. Would be a good move forward. Also to Chiarelli for coming on and giving us an idea about what we can expect when we get the chance to talk to them. I will reach out to them. Sewer district is going to be an exciting thing for the future of the village, and looking forward to go through all the motions and the way that this village is going to go about trying to create their own. Gary, thank you for the quick response to the concerns some residents have by getting these mobile units. They are smart units, so there'll be a lot of good things coming out with that, and it'll alleviate a little bit of anxiety that a lot of residents are have, based on the fact that traffic is really picking up now. So good work on getting them quickly. Noticed today, the Parks Department, they were putting out benches. They're nice and clean and green, and looking forward to having them filled with some real pretty flowers. And thank you to the VAIS that every year does a great thing for the village and donates their raised monies to help us really do a great job of making the downtown look clean. With that, I would like to ask the business owners to keep their stoops clean. It's important. We do have our employees that come around and do blow off the things, but again, they can't be there all the time. And it's one of the things I love to do is get out there in the morning and try and keep my front stoop clean. And it makes a difference when you're walking along the street. And finally, outdoor dining. Charlene, are those applications ready? Do you know? All right, great. Well, again, it's good to get those out. I will probably come by and grab some and go walk around to some of the businesses and get those in, because it's getting warm again and we're going to have people out eating outside again. So everybody have a great night, and until the next time.
Thank you, Trustee Parrish. Trustee Polaro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really am going to keep it very brief this evening, as I really have nothing to report from the EMS. They continue to work hard, volunteers are there and on call and ready for when the call comes in. So I thank all of them for their service, and I will turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee Polaro. First, just wanted to thank our board tonight. This was a great meeting. We got a lot done. Everything from Southampton the streets, resolution on bioswale, numerous grants for projects. We had a great speakers and discussion tonight. We carved out an important part of our capital budget. This was a great meeting. We got a lot done. So thank you to the board for all of your help and support. And also, I think things are looking very good. It just seems as things are getting nicer and nicer. The business district looks really good right now. We have probably a record low vacancies in the village. Businesses are coming here because we did a good job making a good, safe environment. And so we have a lot to be proud of, this board. So thank you to everybody. And I think we're in good shape right now. We're looking forward to Our Lady of the Hamptons coming to Agawam Park on June 8th, 9th, or 10th. And the students coming. Again, Deputy Mayor, thank you for the mention of the master plan. That's going to be an exciting update that we have. That's going to really pave the way for our village for the next several years to come. And then I wanted to thank Charlene. She's been working extremely hard. So thank you. Welcome again, Derek. And then also just wanted to thank Miranda for two things. First, she's been working very hard on our 311 app that we're going to be rolling out probably the end of this month, which is going to be a quality of life app to improve the services for our village. And then Miranda very quietly has been working behind the scenes on the rebuild of the Pierce Concert House. And she has been doing all the legwork behind the scenes with noticing, sending letters to residents because there's an application in front of the ZBA. She's been coordinating multiple times a week with the Pirates Concert Action Committee. She has been doing it all behind the scenes. And I mentioned this in a prior meeting, but she's been coordinating with the engineers and the site plan design. We have a commitment from the town for about $1 million to rebuild the home. We have working very closely with Nicole Christian, who's going to be going out and applying for money for the Gardner Foundation. We've got, and this is all because of Miranda, so we got to give her a lot of credit here. And Dr. Key and Brenda, but Miranda's really been doing a great job here. And also, we might actually need to have a special meeting, because I'm looking at this and there is a grant that we're also applying for with the Water Quality Fund for a IA septic system on the Pierce Concert House. So we'll just touch base because they're due on May 15th. So will just have to touch base with Nicole, but that's an additional grant on top of the other CPF funding and town funding. We're going to get about $1 million to rebuild a home. So depending how things go, I mean, there's a chance that there's going to be a shovel in the ground, but there's definitely more hurdles to come because it's a big project. But anyway, I just wanted to thank Miranda for really getting this and working with the Paris Contract Action Committee, because it's very quiet under the scene. She's been doing it. Not a lot of people know about it, and phenomenal job. So with that said, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing contractual litigation and specific village personnel matters.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to make a motion to return to public session. The time is 9:48 p.m.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
So for the record, we left executive session to specifically discuss litigation. No official actions were taken. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.